Dear God. Third time's a charm. Maybe. Maybe. Hello everybody. It's Romania Black, and we're going to try this one more time. This is the third time. The last time it only worked for like 30 seconds, and this time it lasted like 5 minutes, and now we're back to try one more time and see what's going on. I think I figured out the problem with the last time, and that was that the camera I was using is my webcam, which, well, hello again, Shelby. Oh my God. Yes. So I think I figured out the problem. The web camera that I use for reactions is terrible and old and needs to be redone. I think that's going to be my next Patreon thing, is going to be getting a new webcam, because the one I have now, it is about 3 years old and it needs to be replaced. So what you guys are seeing is just the built-in camera on my computer. So yes, this is a weird angle of the room. You can see Whiteboard Coon. They're always right outside of reach. Every time I record, Whiteboard Coon is right there, ready to come in whenever they're needed. So yeah. And yes, Lost in Translation is one of my favorite movies, so I have to represent it up there. The picture right there is a Philadelphia Story. It's one of my other favorite movies with Jimmy Stewart and Katharine Hepburn in it. And it's actually, that photo is a poster that's in Japanese. It was a Japanese advertisement for Philadelphia Story, which I love. And yes, now you can see things that are actually on my shelf. So you can see like all the manga. That's like my little BL cabinet. There's like a little Heaven Official's Blessing thing up there. There's all those up there. You can kind of see over here some of the sports anime, things like that. And then yes, there's Ace of the Diamond like right up there. So yeah, but oh my God, finally, maybe we'll do it this time. Like I said, live streams, I love them, but they are just absolutely ridiculous. So what does that say, Rosemary? The girl in the photo looked like you all this time. Oh, that's cool. Nice. And yes, Kelsey, Lapras is the best Pokemon, so it has to be represented there alongside Oikawa. Like has to be represented. And then the black swans, or the black cranes, are actually sculptures my great grandmother made before she passed. And so of all the things in her house, I was like, I just want the black cranes because they're very pretty. And so yeah. And would Lapras be Oikawa's starter? Yes, I think it would be. Yeah, so I love the black cranes. She like sculpted them herself, and they're cool. Edgar, hello. Where are the doggos? Well, they are sleeping. One is like over here. You can't see them. And the other one's in the kitchen. But I will tell you all, Huckleberry and Ruby, they are my two dogs, and they may decide to bark and or make noise at any time. So if that happens, I recorded something last night and a deer went by my yard outside and they just freaked out. So halfway through a death parade reaction, there was just barking dogs. And I was like, well, cool. It's fine. So yes, we are going to try again with this and talk about Death Note. Yes, the damn corgis. So yeah, for those, since I'm going to delete the other two, talk about Death Note. This is the manga set. Show y'all. Again, there's all the manga there. Fun times. Thank you, Patreon, for giving me this so I could record the manga review back at the end of January. So crazy talk, right? Oh, man. So, and then let me look on here. Bernard Black, hello. Yes, I wanted to do a live stream because I used to do it back a year or two ago. When I would finish a series, I would do a live stream about it so we could all have like one final discussion about the series. And the thing is, up until finishing Death Note and Buddy Daddies and a couple other series, I haven't really finished any series. I've just caught up to where new seasons are coming out, or I finished them to a point, but then there's going to be new material later. So I didn't want to have a live stream without there being new material. But with Death Note, there's not really much new material. We'll talk a little bit about that. I've got lots of notes because that's just how I am. Edgar, I highly recommend the manga. The manga is really good. The artwork for the manga is beautiful. I love like all the work from the mangaka and their artist. It's just incredible. I love the manga style. It's very gothic. It's very cool. It's just a really good series. And there are bits and pieces left out from the anime in the original manga that it's kind of like anybody that tells you the book is better than the movie. The manga, I would argue, is better than the anime, but there's parts of the anime I really love. So I say that with trepidation, right? I would, yes, Dan Simmons says it perfectly. I was trying to find a way to phrase it, but Dan Simmons says it perfectly. The first part is better than the anime. The second half is better than the manga. Yes, 100%. I agree with that fully. The second half, I feel like gets a little bit rushed in the anime, where in the manga, it's just, it's like right in that sweet spot. So yeah, I've got lots of notes. I asked Patreon for questions with Death Note, and I figured I would sit down and talk to you all for a good hour, hour and a half, if my live stream holds up, and talk about this in general. Hello, Cyber. Hello, Rosemary. Let me go up here in the chat and see what we got here. Have you heard of the black version? Yes. So the covers are in black and white. I haven't heard if that version of the manga is too different, Rosemary, but I saw those covers. I really debated getting the perfect editions, but I just love the colors, the rainbow colors of the Death Note original manga. And I was like, oh, I can't pass it up. And it's in such a cool case. I didn't want to do that. Edgar, the manga does not have Miyano Mamoru. That is exactly right. Miyano Mamoru is perfection as Light. There is no, although I do love Brad Swain as the English dub. The English dub with Brad is so good. I think if anybody could portray him in the English dub, he's perfect for it. He's so good at doing, he plays Light so well, but he doesn't try to imitate Miyano. It's really, really good. I like it a lot. So yeah, so we've got lots of stuff to talk about. So we might as well dive in. I'm gonna look through the chat as we go. So we'll just go from there. But yeah, I guess we could go ahead and talk about the dub real quick. I didn't have that on my notes. The dub, I know when I started Death Note, a lot of people were trying to convince me to do the English dub and react to it instead of the Japanese sub. And I really thought about it. I really wanted to. But my thing is that Miyano Mamoru, I knew he was playing Light, and I knew he was iconic in that role. And I was like, if I'm going to react to anything, I'm going to react to Miyano as Light from the beginning and go from there. And I was watching the English dub in between each episode of the reactions. So it was just, but the dub is solid. I will say that I think English dubs get a lot of bad raps sometimes because they don't live up to the vocal ranges of the actors in the Japanese sub. But Death Note is one of those that the dub absolutely lives up to it. Like, I was so glad I watched the dub. I loved it to pieces. I thought Brad's voice was amazing, especially in the last few episodes. It was so good. So yeah, I highly recommend the Death Note dub. If you've not watched it, you should. It's like Rosemary said, there's one of the greatest dubs that I've heard. I agree. Yeah. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, it's an amazing dub as well. Somebody had mentioned it up there, but yeah, definitely solid. The cackle in the dub for Light. Oh, it's good. Brad Swain, he does a great job. I think if anybody's going to compete with Miyano for that role, it's him. There's moments that he really elevates that performance. It's just solid. So I went to Patreon to ask questions of what they wanted me to talk about in this live stream. And so I've got lots of notes, and I'm going to go through those. But right before I start, I'm going to take one more question from the chat and then go here. Honest, did you see the Death Note movie with the extra scenes? I saw there were several people that asked me to watch the extra scenes, like the funeral scene for L and a couple of extra scenes. I had people in the comments on YouTube request that I go look at them on my own time. So yes, I have seen the Light. I think I reacted to the funeral scene in one of those reactions. The funeral scene I did react to, but the others I did see. And they're fine. They're good. They're okay. And then, yeah, Miyano, like you said, Miyano's just so good. He's so talented. And that role being like his breakout role, it's just absolutely love it. So, Rame on Patreon, this was the first question. I did talk about L's speech. Yeah, L's speech about the monsters. Yes. We'll get to L's speech. I'll make a little note about that on here. Let me get onto that and let me make a little note about L's speech. I guess we can go ahead and talk about, I'm just delaying the Patreon questions, literally. L's speech about the monsters and that he is one. I think that's going to relate more to when we get to the LABB murders, which I'm going to talk about later. I'm going to save this for later, but we're going to get to it. It's going to be like my last thing I talk about is the novel, because I loved it. So we're going to talk about it after we talk about the series proper. But yeah, the very first question right out the gate, I went on Patreon and into the Discord and asked, like, okay, if you have any Death Note questions, what are you what are your questions about the series? And yes, Bernard, you are correct. We're going to talk about it. This is one of my favorite parts about it. But the very first question from the Discord was, is Light gay? And I was like, of all questions you had to start with to ask, for me to ask on this Discord, that's what you go with. You shippers. He's gay for power. Base Discord. He's not gay. So that's kind of, Bernard kind of hits it on the head of where my thinking is, because here's my deal. In all honesty, as much as I love shipping Elle with Light, because it's like a Sherlock Moriarty dynamic, and there's so much potential with how you can go with that ship. As much as I like that, in my mind, in my heart of hearts, Elle is asexual. Elle is not interested in it. But we'll talk about that with the novel. See, the novel complicates things. No, but actually, yes. Yeah, the novel complicates things. Because when I was watching the series, we're going to leave the novel out. The novel's going to have to be put out to the side. I'm going to set the novel on top of the manga by Whiteboard Coon, and we're just going to leave it here for a moment. But yeah, during the anime, I was thinking, my thought was that Elle is asexual. He's not interested in sex at all. That's not his thing, not his prerogative. He's just interested in solving cases. That's it. Ryuk is apple sexual, as Omaru has stated, although he does kind of have a crush on Misa a little bit. Can't blame him. And then what's wrong with monster fucking? Truck's asking some real questions, but Light, I always viewed as Light. Light is actually asexual, but thinks he's heterosexual, but is not heterosexual. So no, but actually yes, sort of scenario. Like, there is no way, shape, or form that Light's into girls. No, not at all. Now, is Light gay? I don't know. I viewed him more as he's too busy trying to control the world and take it over than worrying about anything else. Light is light sexual. He is only in for him. Yes, Edgar just nailed on the head. Light is only gay for Light. Yes, that is basically. And as much as we want to ship him with Elle, it's just this video is essay worthy. Yeah, it's just, there's so much you could do. If you wanted to break down the sexualities of Death Note, I think you could write an entire thesis on how sexuality is portrayed through Light, or the lack thereof, and how he presents masculinity and how he views himself. There's so much you could do with that. But are very similar. This is not a romance. This is not an enemies to lovers, as much as we want to make fan fiction that is. It's just very it's very much the duel between Light and Elle over who will prevail and which justice will be the one that wins. Oh man, if Light had an evil BB doppelganger, again, we're going to touch on that. But yes, yeah, if there was a BB version of Light, I hope it's not still buffering, because it seems like it's good on my end. All right, hopefully it's okay. Every time with you was yes, I would say, Dan, you are correct. Every time he's with a girl, he is performing. Yeah, with Misa, with Naomi, all of, like, as in acting, yeah, he acts as if he likes them, but he does not. Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not into women. We can't say that, but he's never into any of the women that he's with during the series. Takada, thank you. Hopefully the stream is still working. It looks good on my end, so we're gonna go with it. And then maybe if the recording's buffering, it'll be better later. But yeah, so is Light gay? I think it's a lot left to what the audience wants to believe. He definitely is not into Misa. He's not into Takada. He's not into Naomi. They are all just either tools he is using, or they're individuals that he's trying to get rid of. So you can't say that Light's not into girls, but I will argue the magazine scene where he is looking at the magazine and has no reaction whatsoever, this teenage boy, it's a little suspect. It's a little suspect when he's treating it. That lent me to the whole asexual vibes with Light, because he's not even, there's like no strategic porn. There's no reaction whatsoever. And even Ryuk's just like, nothing at all. But yeah, Light is very narcissistic, highly. He'd be gay if Misa was a guy. Yeah. Oh my God. Could you imagine? What if Misa had been a guy? What if Misa had been a male character in this, and Misa's character was in love with Light? Would Light have performed being gay to be with Misa because he knew he could use Misa? I think he would have. I think he very much would have. But that's so interesting. That's so interesting because Light, he's just like romance. No, not into it at all. But if he had to perform, man, now I need someone to write that. If somebody could rewrite, because I need someone on AO3 to give me my Misa gender bent AU, where Misa's a guy and Light has to perform being in love with Misa in the Death Note. Everything else is the same, and it would probably not make any difference, but that would be so interesting because Light just seems like he's just kind of like meh, very stuffy about it. Interesting. So I had Truck ask on Patreon about favorite ships, and a lot of you were throwing ships out there about like I did not ship Ryukin Light. I could not ship Ryukin Light. No, 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 no. No, no, no. The ships, the Titanic. Oh, yeah. Whew. Asking about that. I'm going to look at you all in the chat as well for ships. I can't do Ryukin Light. I never viewed them that way. I was not a Light Misa shipper. Absolutely not. I think it was all performative. The Light and L ship is so tempting because there are two rival protagonists. So it's so tempting to want to be like, yes, L and Light, obviously, but you can make it platonic, whatever. But what am I saying here? Mello and Matt. Oh man, when I was watching the anime, Mello and Matt for sure. Absolutely. That is a great, and Ryukin Apple, of course. Ellen Sweets, of course. But Mello is the closest male Misa. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think Mello and Misa are too similar. But Mikami and Light, oh, that is toxic. So the Mello and Matt ship is so interesting. I wish we'd gotten more with Matt, honestly. I know the manga gives us more that he was from Whammy's house as well, which is so fascinating. But I really wanted more with Matt. I honestly ended up shipping Mello kind of with Lidner. I really liked Mello with Lidner. I think by the end of it, him and her, I really liked their dynamic in that she seemed to be more into Mello than Mello is into Lidner. But I felt like there's this really cool chemistry between the two of them where they were in all these scenarios and they just had really good vibes between the two of them. Light's father and his disappointment in his son. Light's father was never disappointed in him. To the very end, he believed that Light was not Kira. So could we say that Soichiro was disappointed in Light? I don't know. But yeah, I did like Lidner and Mello. There was a weird, in one of the extra stories when I did the manga review, I remember that there's a side story with Nier and one of the characters that he's like researching or one of the criminals he's trying to go after. And Nier has like the long hair and it's all very interesting. But I kind of almost shipped them. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a neat pairing. Nier seems more asexual than L. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, Nier is not really interested in either one. Is it near or near? I have an accent. It's kind of southernish. So my near sounds probably like N-I-E-R. So that's probably what it is. Like, how else are you supposed to say near? Near, far? How else are you supposed to say it? What is with smart characters in Death Note being not interested in sex? They know what's good for them. Or they're too busy trying to take over the world. Romance, as Light would say, emotional attachments are going to lead to your downfall. So you can't have any emotional attachments with anybody. It will lead you astray and you won't be able to succeed, right? Too smart for horny. I agree, Rosemary. I think Nier and L are both asexual characters. I think they're not interested in any type of romance. Here's the thing. I could totally read a fan fiction where my thing is I like the fan fiction where Light is in denial about his possible feelings towards L, but L doesn't have any sexual feelings towards Light. And so it's just like, it's angst without the angst. Like, they won't be together, but there's like some kind of attraction there maybe, or it's one-sided. I like that kind of torture in my fan fiction. That's just me. But yeah, Naomi and Ray Pimbar, I don't know if any of you guys ship them. I feel kind of bad for Naomi, especially after reading this novel that we'll talk about later. After reading that, I definitely feel bad for Naomi because I was not ever really fully on board with Ray Pimbar as a character. He was fine. He was okay. She could have done better. She could have done better than Ray. What is this for? Pause. L is ace, but the tennis match, the Rennis match. Yeah. I mean, the tennis match is it's hard to deny that. One-sided law light. I'm into some one-sided law light. That sounds good to me. The mangaka. Oh, interesting, Rosemary. I'm going to get here. He said it was a lie to lie as he thought humans were a cunning species. It doesn't surprise me that Elle would lie about that. And that's the thing. That's the one-sided part, Rosemary. That's what I'm talking about, is that Elle would tell Light the whole friend speech, and that would cause Light to have these somewhat emotions that he's like, no, I don't have these emotions. I'm totally fine. But maybe I do. And then the whole time Elle's like, no, I just want to take Light down. Like that's my jam. That's the kind of stuff, like a Light that's slightly frustrated and having to contemplate everything about him and his sexuality is my jam. And then Elle's just over here like, I just need to find out who Kira is. Like that's my type of fan fiction. That's what I would want to see. BB and Naomi, Truck, what are you doing? Just, oh my God. Yeah, we'll talk about BB. We'll talk about Beyond Birthday and that whole jam. That's just, I love this book so much. But we got to get to it. Lying monsters are a real nuisance. Yes, Dan, just like Elle says of himself. Mm-hmm. Truck is wildling. Yes. Great ham. Oh my God. Okay, so the question on here, the next one that Truck asked was, are you Team Elle or Team Kira? I would ask the chat, what are you all? Are you Team Elle or Team Kira? Because I think it's no surprise what I am. I think that's pretty. Yes, Elle clears. Elle clears. Elle. Yes, Elle. Mm-hmm. Team Minoru. Oh, Minoru. Yes. Oh my God. We're talking about Minoru. We should talk about Minoru. Team Kira. Truck, you're just doing it because everybody says L. No, but you love Light, so I won't judge you. No, that's cool. I love it. Yes, I love Light as a character from a distance. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I think in the story, oh, Zeph, that's so perfect. Team L for ethics, Team Light for aesthetics. Yes. Oh, that's so good. Here's my thing. I love Light as a character. Light is so engaging. He's a diva. He's over the top. He can be ridiculous. When he gets mad, it's just this spectacle. But that's the whole thing that's so engaging about Death Note and so much fun, is that there's a lot of times where you look at your protagonist and you're like, you're in the wrong. What are you doing? But you still want to see more of him because he's so charming and engaging, and he's a drama queen and we love him for that. Yes, Dan, absolutely. And I feel like it's one of those things where the big argument is, a lot of times, if someone that commits a crime is good looking, they can get away with it. And Light definitely feels like, if Light was some like creepy looking person, do you think he'd get away with half the stuff he does? No. But yeah, it just, would you consider Light to be a trashy king? Oh, no, I don't. Oh, Sun Ray, that's a really good question. Do we consider Light to be a trash king? Is he a trash king? That is a very interesting question. And I would argue that, okay, Rosemary, to your thing, Light is not the antagonist of the story. He is the protagonist of, I'm going to whip out my English teacher hat. A protagonist is not necessarily the good guy. The protagonist is just the main character of the story. They can be good or evil. Does not matter. They're just, the protagonist is the main character. So Light is the protag and Elle is the antag. But the funny thing is do you think by the end of Elle's journey, was Elle a bad person, or was he actually on the side of justice that you agree with? That's the fun question about it, right? Do I consider Light a tragic character? Yes, I do. I don't know if he's a trash king, but I consider Light to be a very tragic character, because I think Light starts out with very good intentions. Like who wouldn't want to stop villainy from happening and stop murder and crime from happening? Who wouldn't want to do that, right? And I think what's interesting is that Light starts out with these good ideas, but it's his ego and his attitude towards how he handles them that makes you slowly go, oh. Now, I think he's tragic because of what ends up happening to him, that he ends up dying. I'm like, that's the tragedy, is that he just sinks so further. The Yagami family is tragic. And I think even Ryuk hits it on the head. He's like, oh, isn't this fun? We have these lovely moments with the most tragic family in the world. Because nobody gets out unscathed in Light's family. Nobody. His sister is traumatized. His dad dies. His mom is left completely alone. Like no one gets out of it. And there's so many times in the story where you look at Light and you're like, your family's right there. And you could have all this with them, and then you choose not to go down that path. And it's like, when you have an ego like Light's, moral situations are an issue. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Edgar. And the power the Death Note has. Yes, the Death Note is that temptation. It's that get out of jail free card that you can get. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And the funny thing, Amaru, is we're going to talk about some manga spoilers and some spoilers about Death Note. So if you've not read the manga, I apologize if I spoil things. But there are certain parts that are anime only, and that one scene's anime only. And I feel like the studio put that in there to make everybody feel a little bit better, feel a little bit worse for Light. It's like, ooh, because in the manga there's not that scene, and in the manga Light's very pitiful in the end. He's very pathetic in his death, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is where he got to, right? Noi, did you watch Elle's funeral? Yes, I did. Someone sent me a link to that, and I did watch it. It's in one of the reactions. I think it's in a reaction for one of the episodes in part 2. Hello, Anthony. Hello. And I do agree. There are parts of the anime that are included that I enjoy, and there's parts of the manga I think are handled really, really well. I like the manga ending, but I like the anime ending too. So it's apples and oranges. It's really like what day it is depends on which one I like better. I do love though that when I was reading the manga for this, I was fully anticipating when we got to Silence. I was anticipating, and I remember somebody had said, and I was like, I think they said the scene with Elle washing Light's feet is anime only. But I'm like, maybe they were lying. Maybe the manga has it and they don't. And so I was like, oh no, the anime team really just up and decided we're going to have this symbolic spiritual scene of Elle washing Light's feet in the most homoerotic way possible. We're just going to do it. And they're just like, okay. And the studio went, sure. That's just one of the best things to me, that they just got away with that. And it's so symbolic and wonderful. I do agree, Sunray, the anime is a lot more sympathetic towards Light, but I still think it ends good. But I agree with Ashy Roy. The manga ending, it's so good. It's realistic. Yes, Ashy Roy, sorry. I think you say that correctly. It's not necessarily noble. It's just more realistic. Rankings here in a second. But yeah, Emaine, things. I don't know what else we expected, right? They're just washing feet. I know when I get together with my rivals trying to figure out who's a serial killer and who's not, we wash each other's feet all the time and just stand out in the rain. That's what we do. I don't know how you guys handle that, but that's just, just our typical Friday, right? So Team Elle or Team Kira. I think that boils down to, I feel like the story wants you to be Team Elle by the end of it, but it really is a question of whether you like Light's character or not. And I think you can be both. I think you can like it. You can like Light as a character, but also be Team Elle. But yeah, what does it say, Edgar? A rite of passage for serial killers. Yes, obviously. I've watched enough true crime to know this is true. Is the feet thing a Bible reference? Lunar eclipse. Yes. We talked about this a lot in the comments, that it's idea of washing the feet of Jesus, and which is a thing in itself, right? Why did they make an ending like in the manga? Why didn't they make an ending? I think somebody touched on this, Karin, that it really was maybe making Light look a little bit more favorable since he is the protagonist, and not having it end. And plus, the manga ending is not as cinematic as the anime, and they built that anime up hard. Episode 36, the 1.28, that was such a lead up episode. It's like, well, how do you follow that up? Right? How do you follow up that lead up and make it have the same impact? And I think if they just ended it like the manga, a lot of people would have complained that it was too anticlimactic. So they added the scene of Light running away, seeing himself on the street, ending up at the stairwell. It just seemed more, I guess, more cinematic and epic as an ending than just having it end like the manga. But I love the manga ending. It was good. The manga ending is karma. Yep, Dan, exactly right. Hitting Light right in the face. Just karma slapping him upside the face. That's interesting, Bernard. Bernard Black says, I'm very much in favor of adaptations not doing the same thing. That's why I like the musical and movie series so well. We'll talk about the movies here in a second. But yeah, I I'm kind of usually the person that really wants, especially if I like a manga, I like it to be adapted into the anime because I'm always afraid that if the anime doesn't adapt everything from the manga, they'll leave stuff out that I really liked. And so it's like, Sunray, there is a musical. I have a reaction to it on here. There is a musical, but I understand why people would want it to be something different. You get more out of it. It gives you more for your money if you get a slightly different ending. But yes, what else do we have on here? I do want to do a character tier ranking. I've got that pulled up here, but we might as well talk about the movies while we are here before we do the character rankings. That'll take a little bit. I have been told about the live action movies. The only movie I've reacted to is the Netflix one. The Netflix one being like, oh my God, the Netflix one was a trash fire, a dumpster fire indeed. But I'm glad I watched it to laugh with you all about how ridiculous and stupid it was. A masterpiece in bad movie making indeed. Yes. What did you say? Be happy. I agree with Bernard to have some freedom adapting, but touching to the core of the story still bothers me. Yes, I think that's my problem. Be happy. I think I think Death Note did it right. They were able to change the ending slightly from the manga, but the core message of the manga is still there in episode 37. It's still there and it's fine. It's when they change the ending of a manga and they don't stick with that core, they try to change things that I have issue with. And it's a very delicate line. It's easy to not do it right. So I think that's why I'm always like, well, just adapt it like the manga, and then you won't ever have to worry about running that risk of not getting it right. So I think you touch on it. Be happy. That's a really good point. What have we got here? You couldn't watch 20 minutes. The Netflix version is bad. It is so bad. I probably would never watch it again, but it's worth seeing once and drinking copiously with it, and you will find it slightly entertaining. There are some gems that are pretty good in it. Did you know about the 2015 TV drama? I might as well bring this up. So Truck sent a list on Patreon of all the different live action adaptations and movies. So they talked about that there is the Death Note movie in 2006, which was the first one that came out. Death Note, The Last Name is the second one. L Change the World is a spinoff about an event that happens after the second movie. Death Note, The Genius of the Counterattack is the first two films combined with some extra scenes that relate to later films. So it's like a whole expanded universe. And then there's Death Note New Generation, which is a TV series of 3 episodes that bridges the events from the previous and next film, which is Light Up the New World and the fourth and last film of there. And then there's L Change the World that is based off of a novel or has a novel based off of it. That's a lot. That is a lot, right? And then there's a novelization of it. I told them in Patreon I didn't really have an interest in watching the live action films only because I feel like I've seen the anime. I've read the manga. Seeing it in live action, and I've watched the musical. And the musical, I watched it because the stage play is a different entire medium than anime or manga. It's incorporating different elements like musical numbers, things like that, and choreography. So it feels like a different genre. With the live action movies, my fear would be that it would just be some of the same. And I would be like, well, I've watched the anime and I've read the manga. So what new am I as a reactor getting out of it? I think it would just be me like rehashing the manga and anime over again, which maybe you would all like seeing. I feel like it would be boring. In my mind, I feel like the reaction would be boring. But maybe one day down the road when I am like having a hankering for some Death Note and I want to see Light and L again on screen together, I would watch the live action movies and give them a shot, right? So I'm not going to rule it out. I'm not going to say I'm not doing it, but one day I might. I will say with Omaru in the Netflix version, though, William Dafoe is the only good thing about it, and it wasn't enough. Yeah, William Dafoe is perfect as Ryuk, but they just didn't give him enough to do in the Netflix version. Yeah, and Sailor Moon, that's a great point, Lunar Eclipse. There's just so many different iterations. I think one day if I get the hankering to go back and see Light again, I'll watch the live action versions and we'll go from there. Right. I will say the musical, if you've not seen the musical, I did a reaction to it on this channel. It's really good. I like the musical a lot. The English album, I did a reaction to the songs for it. It's so good. And I'm not usually somebody that likes musicals or listening to songs as I've recorded reactions to lots of songs for anime so far, but I really enjoyed it. It was really good. So I want to ask a question on on the chat here, and I'm very curious to know your response because we were kind of talking about it a little bit in the Discord. Wanting more light is disturbing. He's an engaging character. He's so engaging and fun to talk about. He's just interesting, right? So let me ask you all this question, and I'm going to type it in. I'm going to type it. And I have a feeling I know the answer to this question, but I'm just curious of the chat here to see if there's any that give this answer. Which half of the series do you all like better? I want to put this out here. Which half of the series do you like better? The first half from episode 1 through 25 or episodes 26 through 37? I have a feeling I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm curious if we get some that I'm not expecting. Edgar's like, no, first half. And first. Not a fair question. No idea. Can't say. Killer Queen. Snap that answer. First half, second half ain't bad though. Oh, second half in the manga. Good answer. First, but I don't hate the second one. Yeah, I would ask, and I'll sound crazy for the second part. Let me ask you all this question. Do you think Death Note should have ended right after L's death? Do you think it should have ended right after L's death? Or do you think that we needed the second half with Nier and Mello? Yes and no. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. The first half is easier to digest. The second half is captivating. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's so fascinating to me. Yeah. If you like messed up endings, for sure. And that's so fascinating because it's like, why do we needed the second half? I will agree. The second half wasn't needed unless it was to make Light lose. They should have played the events after L's death better. Here's the thing. I think like Dan Simmons and a couple others have talked about in here, the manga in the second half is actually I like it better than the anime of the second half. Now, episode 37, I freaking love. It's so good. But I feel like the manga went into so much more detail in the second half. It fleshed things out and it didn't feel so rushed. And it felt so rushed in the second half at parts of the anime. Like there's a couple episodes I'm like, man, we are really flying to get to the finish. And I don't know, and you all in the chat can probably, speak some truth to this. I don't know if it was because the anime studio was afraid since they lost L that audiences wouldn't care as much. They were trying to wrap it up as quickly as possible. Or if they were just limited to 37 episodes and that was all they had to work with, so they had to squeeze it in, which 37 is a weird number, or what the deal was. But I felt like if they had been able to expand the second half like the manga is, people would have liked it better. I don't know. I feel like it would have been better, right? The second half only had 12 episodes. Yeah, instead of 25. So, but I don't think they could have expanded it to 24 episodes. But I think they were limited to 37. Okay, Zepho, thank you. And the director commentary, they only had 37 to work with. So it was like they had a full series of 24, 25 episodes and then a limited series of 12 to follow up with. That's such a shame because I think if they had I'm not saying that they needed 24 episodes to adapt the second half, but if they'd had like 15, 16 maybe, I think if they'd gone to like 40 episodes maybe instead of 37 or 42 episodes, they could have gotten the whole thing in full detail and it would have been better. But woulda, coulda, shouldas, right? But I do think you have to have that second half. And I think it's good. I love the second half. I love getting Mello and Nier involved. I remember when I first started reacting to the second half, people were like, you're not going to like Mello and Nier. And I'm like, within one episode, I was like, I love them. So I was like, no, I want to like gather them all up from Whammy's house and take them away. 40 would have been fitting for Death Note. I agree. I think if they had 3 more episodes to flesh things out in certain places and include more detail about Matt, about Mello, about Nier, about Whammy's, about all the different things, they could have made it work. I think that would have been fine. But I love the anime regardless, so I don't feel like it's a bad thing. I feel like they're okay with that. So, all right. Let's go ahead and talk about the one thing I do want to do before we rank the characters is I had Rame on Patreon ask this question. We had a lengthy discussion about Giovanni and the whole Giovanni transcribing the entire notebook of the Death Note in one day. And we were talking about this because there's been people like Raim sent a link to someone on YouTube that had been like, here's how it logically doesn't work. And I was like, well, but there's some things in Death Note that logically don't work anyway. So I can forgive the whole one day thing. But I was telling Raim, I was like, I have a new headcanon. We talked for at length about this. And I think that my headcanon is that I don't think Giovanni wrote and transcribed the entire Death Note from Mikami in one night. I don't think that's the case. I think that he did it like in 2 days, and Nier just told Light one day to piss him off. I think that Nier told Light that he got it done in one day because he knew Light would get so flustered about that and be like, how's that even possible? No, nobody can do that. Like, I feel like Nier was just trolling Light with the whole, he did it in one day. Like, just to make Light feel like just like so horrible, right? And so I feel like that. I feel like that is what it is, that Nier was just trying to get under Light's skin to say, oh yeah, my guy did it in one day. See, we figured it out and cracked the code, when really he didn't. So my headcanon is that Nier lied to Light, that Giovanni had more than one day to do it, and he did it in more than one day. Nier just told Light that to make Light feel extra mad. I don't know. That's my explanation of how it works and how it worked. But I was like, if Light can get away with fooling L with a bag of potato chips and a camera in it, then I think Giovanni could improvise and recopy the Death Note word for word, and Nier just lies to Light about it to make him mad. I like that. I loved how Nier got under Light's skin so easily, because Light's like, you're not L. Like, that was probably my favorite part about part 2, is just how frustrated and mad Light would get because he just didn't think Nier and Mello could live up to the hype of L. That's the thing. I feel like that's fanfic fodder in itself, but it goes to show how much Light actually respected L and how much he respected him by saying, like, you're not living up to the standard L set forth. Like, that's one of my favorite parts, is when he gets so mad at Nier. So speaking of which, I've got a character tier pulled up here with most of the characters. And they have a S tier, A tier, B, C, and D. I don't think we need other. I think D, we can get rid of D and F, or E and F tiers. We don't need those. Here's the thing. I honestly, there's not a lot of bad most of the characters in Death Note. I think they're all fleshed out. They're great. So we have over here on the sidelines, I've got S tier, A tier, B, C, and D. I would say D is just like bottom of the barrel, the worst characters. C tier, we're going to say, is like, meh. Not really caring about them. B tier is that they're fine. A tier, they're great. And S tier is like, come on, best characters in the series. I think it goes without question that we all know that Light and L are S tier. I think that's without question. I think that Light and L belong in S tier. They're just so good. So good. And they're just perfect characters. I think they're the perfect like rival characters in an anime, especially one that's like a mystery detective series thriller like this. If we say Demagawa, where is Demagawa? Yes, he is trash, garbage. Where is Demagawa? Is he even on this thing? I don't know if he's even on this character tier that I found, but Demagawa would definitely be D ranked. He is garbage. BB is on this. Let's go through here. Ryuk, where do we think Ryuk goes? Ryuk would probably be, I would put Ryuk in S tier. I like Ryuk a lot. Ryuk is the perfect like neutral party throughout this until he's not in the manga. Are we counting all versions? I guess you could count any version. I'm thinking of the anime, but the novel characters are in here as well, and some of the extra characters are here too. So I would say Ryuk is S tier only because he's our Shinigami. He's our OG. He is like, he's the perfect neutral party. He's in his own tier. Yes, Amaru, I agree. He's like, musical Rim is S tier. Yes. I would say musical Rim would be S tier. I'm going to put anime Rim in A tier. I wanted more with Rim. I wanted Rim to stick around. I was very sad when Rim died. I thought Rim should have stuck around. I liked the idea of Rim being a threat to Light, and Light being like, crud, she could actually kill me. This is a problem. But let me see here. We have Matt, where we think Matt's going to be. I'm going to put Matt in A tier. I know some people will be like, S tier for Matt. I think Matt would be close to S tier if we'd had more of him. I think if we had more of Matt, he'd been S tier, but I'm going to go with A tier for him for now. In your heart of hearts. Soichiro. What about Soichiro? Are we going to S tier or A tier Soichiro? That is the question. Are we going to put Daddy Yagami in the S tier or the A tier? In my heart, S for Soichiro, but are we thinking A or S? A. Law, a bit boring, lawful good. I do love Daddy Yagami, but I would put him in A tier. Yeah, he's not quite to the level of Ryuk, Light, and L. They're like the top of the tops, but A is for the cameras in the house. Can we put Watari in A tier? I'm gonna put Watari in A tier because, like, how did he function? How did Watari? He not only founded Wami's house, was a genius inventor, but he had the ability to go into Light's home and do like interior surveillance. That man's 80 years old. How, like, what bionic man are we dealing with? And he had to cook all of L's food and give him all these sweets. Like, what? That is the most unbelievable part of Death Note, is that Watari did all of this. That he did. That's what's unbelievable about Death Note, is that Watari is just like justice for Daddy Yagami. See, this makes sense. We have the two fathers in the A tier. We have Daddy Yagami and Watari in the A tier. It's like, Truck says, I'm pretty sure Watari hired somebody to put in the cameras. But who? Who would he hire to go into Light's house? I guess maybe it'd be like a Lidner situation, right? Maybe. Speaking of which, so put Sebastian Michaelis to shame. Sunray, so true. Watari is the ultimate black butler, indeed. Lidner, I'm going to put Lidner in B. I like Lidner's character a lot, and I would put, is it Albus? Oh, what's his name? He's the one that works with Lidner that Light gives cancer to in the manga. What? That part just floors me. Iber, yes. Ashley Roy, sniper rifle, Watari earns him A tier. Lidner and Iba, I'm going to put in B rank because I think both of them, we didn't get enough with them. And so I wanted more of their characters. But yeah, Iba, can we talk about that for a hot second? Weedy. Oh, not Lidner. Oh, yeah. You're talking about Weedy. Yes, thank you. Weedy. I'm going to put Weedy and Iber and Lidner. I'm going to put all of them in B tier. I wanted more with Lidner, who worked with Nier. One more with her. Wanted more with Weedy. She gets B tier. Iber, I wanted more with him. He's in B tier. But can we talk about that for a second? I know I mentioned it in the manga review, but the fact that in the anime, Iber dies by he's just sitting there in his like studio apartment. He has the wine glass and he just kills over dead. So we think he just dies of a heart attack in the moment in front of his family, which is traumatic enough. But the daddy no scene. But in the manga, Light gives Iber liver cancer. Like, that legit happens. He gives him liver cancer and he slowly dies, like, over a period of time. I was like, what the hell, Light? What? And then, yes, that was so unnecessary from Light's side. Like, why? Noi, I know we cannot see the tier rankings. I will put a picture of this in the community post when we get everything ranked. I will put it on here. I do not have the technology to do both simultaneously. And yes, Truck, you are correct. Iber was a criminal too. But I'm like, you could have made him like get in an accident, get his head decapitated, like something instant, like an instant death, something that's not a heart attack. Like Light was clearly creative with the liver cancer. You could have had him like do, but no, I don't think Zepho, I think he legit wrote liver cancer in the Death Note. He didn't just write disease. He like was specific and like had a specific day and time of death. Like, it was messed up. I remember looking at the manga being like, what the hell? And that was right before Nier and Mello came on the scene. And so, oh, Mario, oh my God. Damn. Omaru says Light is merciful. He made him spend time with his family. Angel Light supremacy. That broke me. It's done. I get where you're coming from, saying Weedy died in an accident, so Iber could not die in an accident too. But there was enough time between them. Something could have happened, or it could have been immediate, right? Like, it could have been a brain aneurysm or something crazy quick that took him and not something lingering, you know? Oh my gosh, that's just absolutely insane to me. All right, so we have Weedy, we have Iber, we have Lidner. What about Giovanni? Are we giving Giovanni B rank or A rank? I feel like it needs to be probably B. Maybe B. Are we thinking B for Giovanni? Or are we thinking A? I'm thinking B for Giovanni. We're gonna put B for Giovanni. Takeda. I felt bad for Takeda. I did. B is Giovanni is B just for that beautiful name. True. Very good, Dan. I feel like Takeda, I felt bad for her character. I did, because she just got caught up in the rat race, and she did not realize like how extreme this was all going to get until Light gave her the power to like start killing people. I did kind of feel bad for her, especially at the end when she literally like burns to death. Like that was, I'm going to put her in B rank. I felt kind of bad for her character. I wish she'd had a better ending, but it's like once you get involved with Light, they, as Ryuk warned him, people don't have a happy ending when they're involved with those of the Death Note. What about, we've obviously got what's the one guy that runs this? I'm gonna put him in C rank. The guy that runs the TV station. He's kind of really sleazy and gross. We're gonna put him in C rank. He's the one that runs the Sakura TV. We're gonna do that with him. And then we've got Higuchi. I'm going to put Higuchi in D rank. I did not like Higuchi at all. I would say, and we're going to rank the episodes here in a minute. I'm going to talk about my episode rankings of my favorite episodes and least favorite episodes. But I did not like Higuchi. Higuchi was just, ugh. I honestly, some of my least favorite episodes are probably from that in between span of like episode 19. I did like episode 18. We'll talk about that. But episode 19 through episode 23, that whole little span of episodes are probably my least favorite because I just didn't like Higuchi's character. And then, oh my God, yeah, Truck, you can't ship Higuchi with anybody. That's why there's no shipping. That explains why I don't like his character. It totally makes sense. Yep. So I'm going to put him there. The other guy that works with Higuchi, the long-haired guy we get to know a little bit of, he's going in C rank. He's like meh. What about we have a Jealous? Jealous. What do we do with Jealous? Do we put him in C rank? I feel like I'm going to put Jealous in C rank only because we did not get hardly anything with his character. He was just established to show how Misa got the extra lifespan. He is cute. I agree, Bernard. Like Jealous is a cute little bugger. And his voice actor, there is something with Jealous's voice actor. I've gone back and listened to that episode a few times. There's something about Jealous's Japanese voice actor that is so like sensual and fascinating. Like his voice actor hasn't done a lot. So we looked him up, I think, after the episode, and his voice actor hasn't done a lot of things, but he's just so fascinating. And there's just something about his voice that's haunting and creepy. And I really, really enjoyed it. He has an interesting concept. I agree. His love for Misa gets him C rank, right? He's more emotional and human than some of the real humans in the series. Yes, be happy. Yes, I agree. Jealous is an interesting one. And then we have Sido. Sido, the one that looks like the husk of corn. I'm gonna put him in B rank. Or no, I'm gonna put him and Jealous together. I can't put Jealous in C rank and Sido in B rank. That's just not fair to Jealous. But Sido's so weird. I like Sido a lot more in the manga. In the manga, Sido has a bigger role to play. And when they raid the place to find Mello, when Soichiro has the Shinigami eyes, there's a point where Ryuk stops Sido. And I know at the time watching the anime, a lot of us were questioning, like, why did Ryuk stop Sido? Like, what was the point? In the manga, it's explained more that Sido, all Light wanted Ryuk to do was just to stop Sido. Otherwise, if they didn't stop Sido in the moment, he was going to keep coming after the Death Note and being a problem. And so that's kind of what they did with him. But yeah, Dan, I agree. Sido's English voice actor was a lot of fun. He was very like nasally and kind of interesting. It was cool. All right. So we also have the other members of the task force. What are we going to do with them? What are we going to do with the other task force members? Any ideas about ranking those guys? Now, Matsuda, we're going to leave Matsuda. Matsuda's an A-ranked character. He is for sure. I love Matsuda. And Matsuda's character is so great because he's like an audience surrogate. And then by the end of the series, Matsuda is kind of like the one that ends up shooting Light. So it's kind of like, it's sort of like Light takes so much advantage of Matsuda. And then by the end, Matsuda kind of gets revenge without realizing he's getting revenge, right? Ukita is meh. Yeah, I would say Ukita goes in the C category. He was only around for like a wee bit. Mugi is cool. Yes, I would agree. Mugi, I'm gonna put in B. I like him in B. Aizawa, A ranked. Yes. I would say of the ones in the task force, Matsuda and Aizawa are the A ranks for me. But man, it's hard because a lot of you are saying like Matsuda having an S tier moment. That's so hard. And Aizawa becomes the new Daddy Yagami. Yes, I did like that Aizawa and Soichiro, what's so cool about their characters is that we are presented with Soichiro as Light's father from the beginning. And he has this problem with dealing with how does he deal with enacting justice and being a father at the same time when your child is the one suspected of the crime you're trying to solve. And that's what makes his character so compelling. And then you have Aizawa, who is a father of a young kid and kind of can relate to Soichiro in a lot of ways for his struggles. And what's cool is because Aizawa gets to kind of take Soichiro's place at the end of the series. And you kind of see he's had all of that experience and kind of knows where Soichiro was coming from. It's so good. I love the role that Aizawa has in the second part a lot. And then let me look at the chat here. Aizawa's ranked for me because of his struggles. Matsuda and Aizawa are great. An S tier moment because he's A. Nice. And then Matsuda had the moment I thought Aizawa would have at the end. Yes, Dan, I was fully convinced in part 2 that Matsuda was going to die. I thought Matsuda was going to die the whole time in the second half. And I thought Aizawa was going to be the one in episodes 36 and 37 that was going to outlight. I thought that Aizawa was going to be the one to go after him. So when it was Matsuda that did it, it was such a cool surprise and it was something unexpected. I was like, for Matsuda to be the one to turn on him in the end, that was really, really good. And then, yes, Be Happy, saying that Aizawa's struggle with L was really great too. Yeah, Aizawa never fully agreeing with L, but kind of understanding where he came from by the end is fascinating to me. All right, so we're down to the wire here. Minoru, he was in the extra stories. He was the one, Minoru was the one, Tanaka, that got the death note in the extra manga, and he uses it in one of the most interesting ways. Where do we think we should put him? Well, I'm thinking Minoru. I would put Minoru in B rank. To use the thing properly. That's a really good point, Bernard. That's really good. Maybe that elevates him to A rank. Minoru's character is such an interesting thing, Dan. I agree. Like he's put in there at the end of the extras as someone that used the death note without killing anyone, which I thought was cool. It showed that you could use the death note without being influenced by it, which that speaks something to Light's character, because if Minoru could use the death note and not be influenced by it, then what does that say about Light? So it almost seemed like the author was saying, okay, here's maybe me answering a question about Light's character without coming out and answering it for you, by showing that someone could use the death note without killing people and without succumbing to the pressure of it and still dies by it by the end of it. But that was so fascinating, right? That he used it to get all the money to pay the people around him and then ends up dying in the end. So it's kind of like this weird karma that happens. Minoru did all the money redistribution because his ideals, he just wanted not. Ooh, so Dan asked the question, did Minoru do all of that with the money redistribution because of his ideals or because he didn't want to be caught? Could it be both? I don't know. I think that extra is also interesting because we don't get any concrete answers. The mangaka is just kind of like, here's a thought and here's a character. What do you want to do with it? And then just leaves it up to us to kind of decide. But I thought it was cool that he kind of subverted the expectations of how he would use the death note and ended up, I don't know if he meant to sacrifice himself or it just happened to work out that way. I'm not sure. I'm going to put him in A rank because he's fascinating. He's fascinating enough. I think and has good hair. Yeah, he's the Justin Bieber of Death Note, right? So that leaves us with our heavy hitters. We have Soichiro. We have Misa, we have Mello and Nier, we have Mikami, we have Naomi, and we have BB. So I think it would be natural to start with Soichiro, Sacher, Light's sister. We're going to start with Light's sister. We've already put Soichiro in A rank. Light's sister Seiyu. We're going to start with her. And we're going to put her, where should we put Seiyu at? Thank you, Be Happy. My brain escaped me. Seiyu, are we putting her in B rank or A rank? Dan says it could be the ideals. Oh yeah, that entire extra with Minoru was very, very political. I was not expecting. That was kind of a weird thing too, right? Before we play Seiyu, that was a weird moment too, because up until now, Death Note has not been. It's always been in the future, so the politicians and things we saw were not entirely accurate, especially America's. But then you see Trump in that extra, and it's suddenly very weird, and you're like, "Oh, this is happening now. That's so bizarre. I don't know how to feel about it." But yeah, Rosemary, putting Seiyu in B category. I think so too. I felt bad for Seiyu. I wanted more with her, but she was just so tragic. Like, she did not ask for anything that happened to her. Like getting kidnapped by Mello, getting put through all of that, being traumatized. It was just, yeah, okay, Be Happy says B rank for me because her arc was ultimately to end Soichiro's arc and to show Light's corruption. Yep, I think so too. I think that was a really good way to phrase that. She was kind of just a means to an end to show us the audience. And she, like Be Happy says, was the ultimate victim. Oh, ooh, Karine says that they're reading a fan fiction where Seiyu finds the notebook instead of Light. Ooh, that's very creepy. I feel like Light would steal it from her. I feel like Light would figure it out. He'd figure out what she's got and then be like, yoink, and it'd be crazy. All right. So then we have, let's do Mikami. Let's do Mikami. That would be interesting. Mikami, how do y'all feel about Mikami? Because I was floored when his character was introduced. And I think what's so funny with Mikami's character is that I was instantly like, oh no, he's hot. And then everybody was like, what? And because then when you go back to the manga, Mikami is not as attractive in the manga. I feel like Mikami, when he's simping for Light, looks a lot better than when he's not. And then Mikami, at times the anime makes Mikami look really, really attractive. And then at other times they make him look terrible. Like in episodes 36 and 37, Mikami looks so pathetic and not attractive at all that you're like, what happened? And so crazy. He's just an unhinged L. Ooh, Bernard Black with the hot take. Or Light. Okay. I was like, unhinged L, really? But an unhinged Light. Yeah. I would say that I find, but he is hot. Yes. I find Mikami interesting because he's kind of one of the reasons that Light has a downfall. And I was always so ticked off at Light during that entire exchange because Misa, right there in front of him, Misa ready to throw down, get under the bus, sit on the train tracks, let the train run over her for Light. She was going to do anything for him. And then Light was just like, I could have it all with Misa, but she's kind of annoying. So what if I got this like worshiper of me instead? And I'm like, it's just like, what's so fun is that Mikami represents like idol worship and Misa represents actual love. And Light was just like, actual love? No, Light became the Drake meme where he was like actual love with Misa, but idol worship with Mikami. Like he just kind of like accepted that instead. And Bernard points out a really good point. Why would he still worship Light when he knows how the sausage is made and gets the same power? I was constantly thinking that Mikami was going to turn on Light like the whole time and take matters into his own hands and take the Death Note from Light. And then Light was going to have to be like, shit, how do I get it back? And I was fully expecting that arc to happen, but no, he was just a simp for Light. Yeah, that's true. I'm going to put him in B. He was a simp for Light. And then he dies in the end. I think that Mikami I don't think he's meh. I don't think he's meh, but I don't know if I'd put him up in the same ranks as Matsuda or Rotari or Soichiro. I don't think I can do that. I think that he was a simp character. He was a great plot twist and he was a cool, like last minute character to come in, but I think there could have been more done with his character, just a wee bit. Naomi, we're going to get to her. What do we think about Naomi's character? I'm going to put her man, and I'm going to include the BB novels. We got to do BB novels here. I'm going to put her in A rank. Yeah, Naomi. Naomi was so good, the mangaka had to kill her off. She was so good, the mangaka was like, crap, we got to get rid of her now because she's going to solve the whole case. Interesting, Bernard. She gets to do more in the movie. Okay. We are going to talk about the novel. I'm not going to forget about that. But yeah, she was just so good. And in the novel, I love her characterization. I love that we get inside of her head. We get to see what she's thinking. I liked her interactions with BB and Elle. I feel like as a whole, she's such a great A character. And like Bernard says, she's too competent to live. She is too competent. She came, shook the MC, flustered him, and almost caught him before Elle. I know. I was so frustrated because I kept wanting her. She was so damn close. And we were in the early episodes of the series, like episodes 6 and 7 and 8 were all the Naomi ones. And I was like, man, we're really early on in this series of 37 episodes, and she's almost caught Light. What are we going to do about that? And then the mangaka was like, well, what we're going to do about that is get rid of her because then we won't have a series. If you had wanted to make Death Note a 12 episode series total, then you would have left Naomi alive. If you just left Naomi alive, the whole series would have been 12 episodes tops. It'd be like a little anime original series. Like they just said, an anime original series about Naomi catching Light, and that's it. That's the story. And then the game's over, right? Let me get the comments here. She only needed to stay single. Oh my God, that whole relationship with Ray. Blah. Not that I never had a problem with her and Ray, but Ray was just not one of my favorite characters. He's kind of like, eh. So I feel like if she had just focused more on her gut intuition, man, she was the one slip that made Elle focus on Light. And be happy, that is true. That is true, where Elle did start to notice Light a lot more because of Naomi. Good point. Good point. Alex Cornejo, hello! A 12 episode Death Note where Elle's just a footnote and Naomi's the main character. Oh, I love Elle though, but a main character spin-off series with Naomi catching Light, that'd been a lot of fun. I've been all for that. So we're left with, we can do Mello and Nier. Do we treat Mello and Nier the same? I feel like we do. I feel like we have to put Mello and Nier in the same rank, no matter where we go. Oh, Bernard, Elle is Charlie and she is the angel. Yes, indeed. So yeah, I feel like with Mello and Nier, do we split Mello and Nier into A and S ranks? Do we put them both in A rank? Do we put them both in S rank? Your thoughts. I'm going to put, where do we put Mello and Nier rank wise? A rank, M&Ns. Oh my God, A ranks. I love Be Happy's like little face. Lind L. Taylor. Lind L. Taylor was not on here. I'm going to put C rank on Lind L. Taylor because they were only in one episode and hashtag martyr. Sorry, dude. But you were a criminal too. So also A rank. I'm fine with A rank for, but then yeah, Dan puts out a good thing. Mello is definitely an A rank. Mello, as much as I like him and as important as he is to the story, he does kind of take a backseat to Nier throughout the second half. I would put Mello in A rank. Nier, I have to kind of agree. I have to agree with Karine and Dan. Nier is kind of S rank because I feel like even though Mello and Nier and Elle all have to work together to get Light, I feel like Nier and Elle were the closest working together. And it's that black and white dynamic. You got black hair Elle, white hair Nier. I love it. What is this thing, Bernard, that you're saying about Lind L. Taylor? The 2015 show from Japan. Oh, interesting. Yeah, and it did take Be Happy. You're so right. And in the end, what I loved about the manga and the anime both was that Nier's like, it wasn't just me that took Light down. It was myself, Mello, Giovanni, Elle. It was all of Team Elle that took Light down. Like it took a village with Nier. And I like that Nier was able to admit that, right? That he was able to say, no, it wasn't just me. It was a bunch of us. Dan, I totally agree. The one thing that I love about the second part of the manga is Nier's final discussion with Light. If you have not checked out the manga, go back and read Nier's conversation with Light in the final chapters. It's so freaking good. I love it so much. because Nier points out so many things that are really fascinating. You know who we haven't talked about? They could have done a lot more with Mello. Karine, I agree. And I think in the manga, Mello does get more of a role, which is really good. We need to talk about Misa. We'll put her there. But yeah, I think they could have done a lot more with Mello. And I wish they had like they had in the manga, because his character, I think, had a lot of potential to be really, really neat, more so than he is in the anime. Although I do like him in the anime a lot. We got Misa and BB left, and I want to save BB for the novel discussion to tie into that, and go ahead and discuss that. But S rank for Misa, yeah. I know a lot of people hate Misa, and that makes me so sad, because Misa's character is so, what the mangaka did with Misa was so good. It was so good, because Misa's character on the outside, she seems like she would be that annoying anime character, like the annoying anime girlfriend character who's like, I'm just in love with light and all this. But I think that she isn't dumb. I think a lot of people think she's dumb. She's not on Light and Elle's level, for sure. She's not. She's not as intelligent as them, but she's not an idiot. She's very human. She makes a lot of mistakes. In Scorn, her like taunting with Takeda, like that whole discussion they had, and that I think wasn't the best move. Dan Simmons says she's better than the task force. We're not going to discuss that, but I don't get the Misa hatred. I honestly never understood that, because yeah, I think her character on a surface level can be annoying, because if you watched one episode of Death Note with her in it and you didn't know any of her characteristics or any of her backstory or anything, I could see how you'd be like, oh wow, she's really annoying. But once you figure out what about her character the mangaka is doing, I think she's really, really good. And she legit was a threat to Light. The fact that she was so chaotic and would just do whatever it took for love or whatever, like Light treated her like a legit threat. And I think that was really important in the story, that Light always had to keep her close. He had to keep a leash on her. He had to make sure that she like was in love with him, because he knew the moment she didn't love him anymore, she would kill him. And I think that was like always on the back of his mind. And I'm interested, like Bernard says, the killed my parents killer backstory is a weak and boring motivation. And I think the story kind of starts to get away from that, where she starts out looking for Light because he murdered the killer of her parents, which is kind of like you said, it's kind of a weaker backstory. But then her motivation to stay with him out of love and affection that she feels is genuine, that part was intriguing to me. And then let me see, Dan Simmons, there's a lot of people that say she's written in a sexist way. The same with Takeda. That's a really interesting question, because I guess as a female reader, I think that Takeda is more written in a sexist way. I'm not saying Takeda is written in a sexist way, because I didn't really get that with her character as much. I feel Takeda is the more stereotypical version than Misa is. I feel like Misa subverts a little bit, because she presents these expectations with the goth, with the glam, with like the sexy outfits, the way the OP draws her and everything. You think that her character is going to be presented this certain way, but then she kind of comes off as being threatening, and it subverts a few things. So I never felt like Misa was a sexist character as a female reader. I felt like treated her sexist sometimes, and I was like, oh dude, I was like, maybe Light's being a little bit of a sexist person towards her, but I never felt like Misa was necessarily a sexist character. Yeah, and then yeah, I agree with Truck. The DN women are written in a sexist way. I didn't agree with that either. I never felt that, right? Because even though like none of them are ever, I feel like, even objectified. Like, yeah, Misa has a few shots of her where it maybe looks like there's from like the male gaze sort of, but I never felt like it wasn't, I didn't feel the objectification with Misa as I have other characters like Masato from Neon Genesis or something like that. Like that series deliberately paints her in a certain way for reasons. And I never felt that way with Misa. She never felt like she was being objectified. Like the most that she gets when she's seemingly objectified, she's in a maid's costume, and it's like the most conservative thing possible. So I didn't feel that way. Let me look at the chat. Be happy. She is an emotional bomb traumatized girl that focuses all of her affection and light for idolizing Kira. She's Light's lethal weapon, essentially. Yep. Yeah, Misa used her sexiness willingly. I agree. Misa was in charge of how she dressed and how she presented herself. And I think that is somewhat of an empowerment for her, right? I feel like the only time she was ever really objectified was when Elle had her in captivity and she was strapped to the table and it was like, but I don't know. I feel like Misa is such an iconic character because anytime you think of Death Note, you think of Light, you think of Ryuk, you think of Elle, you think of Misa. Those four are the ones you think of when you think of Death Note. At least when I started Death Note, if I saw any media, those were the four that was always in it, right? And then obviously they couldn't show Nier or Mello because that'd be revealing a spoiler for halfway through the series. But she is a good wild card in the story. The way she demeans herself when introducing her is a bit hard to watch. And I think that a lot of that has to do with how she, how she presents herself, right? Is that she constantly, as an idol, and it kind of is almost a commentary on how her profession causes her to view herself too, because she's an idol singer and she kind of, she presents herself in a certain way. And I do agree with Omaru. I think she's overhated. I think it's totally fine if people don't like her character. I get it. Like if people are like, oh, she's annoying. I get it. I totally am with you if you're not into her character. But I do think that she just gets overhate. Now, Bernard, did she disappear in the manga in the end? She does disappear in the manga, and she gives up the Death Note, yes. Now, the mangaka confirmed that and this is a spoiler, it's in the little special guidebook that's in this set here. The mangaka in the commentary does reveal that she kills herself after Light dies, which is the one bit of detail that I'm like, oof. Yeah, oof. Yeah, she's living happily with Light. Yeah, in the manga, the mangaka says that she commits suicide after Light kills himself, which is a yikes moment. I'm like, why'd you do that, mangaka? Why'd you kill her off? I'm just like, oh no. Because I'd really had high hopes that she would have lived and carried on and maybe moved forward, but nope. That was the one moment reading that commentary. I was like, well, that sucks. I was like, oh no. But I guess that goes along with the idea of Light manipulating and causing her, to act the way that she did. I like Bernard Black's headcanon. She faked her death and now models in Canada. Nice. I do think the aesthetic, like Noise says, the aesthetic of her goth stuff, it's so unique to Death Note. I love the goth aesthetic that she has. It's so cool. You think of like a bubblegum princess and with her voice and bubbly attitude, and then she's goth. It's like so cool. Yep. She's done too much to have a redemption. Yeah, Be Happy's like, nope, she ain't getting off easy. I agree. You do like her character, but then you're like, she's like Light. She's killed all these people. Ugh. Yeah, and it is implied in the anime that she commits suicide, but the mangaka confirms it. It's like, oof. Okay, so I do want to talk about one more character and ranking them, and then I had the episode rankings, but we can go ahead and talk about the novels since we have this character pulled up. So BB is our last character to rank. We have BB. BB ranking. I'm going to do that on here. If you don't know who BB is Beyond Birthday. That is the central character of the LABB murder cases, which I am ready to talk about with y'all because I freaking love this book. It was so good. It was so good. If you have not read this book, we're going to talk about spoilers. So just be forewarned, there is going to be LABB murder spoilers from here on in. So I'm going to say LABB murder spoilers are happening now. Yep. All right, we're going to start this chat about the LABB murder stories. A rank or S rank? Yeah, I don't know if I can put BB in S rank because we only have one novel with them. I definitely will put BB up in A rank because I was so surprised by BB in this story. Oh my gosh, a crazy evil L doppelganger who's much more than that. So much more than that. I was like, oh, so I'll be honest, I'm not a fast reader. I'm not a fast reader when I want to take notes. And so I had debated for a while of reacting to this story, but it would have been incredibly boring to watch because it would have essentially been you all looking at me on a camera going like this. That would have been it, me reading from a book, which sounds really boring. So I was like, I'll read this on my own time. And I finally got around to it. It's so good. I love this. But the names are so stupid. I'm looking at Noi's comment. Yeah, I thought the way that I thought of it, Noi, was that I thought that you know how you watch a crime documentary. You watch a crime documentary and the narrator starts out by saying the names of victims have been changed to protect the identities of family and friends, blah, blah, blah. My headcanon as I was reading was that, okay, they've changed the names to these other characters for the sake of the story to like protect the identities. Obviously, Beyond Birthday is the actual name, BB is, but that makes sense with the whole letter nomenclature. I agree. BB is such a messed up character. But let's be honest, this story does a really cool job of doing a lot of things. It gives us answers about Whammy's house and just kind of how messed up Whammy's house maybe was. Because the anime, presents like, oh, Atari was this very sweet investor and inventor that just had a house and orphanage for kids. And BB kind of shows us that there is a dark side to Whammy's house. And BB's character shows the very dark side of falling in the shadow of L. Because Mello and Near are so like idolizing of L. They love L. They want to be like him and they view it in a very positive light. So to see BB kind of represent the downside of that is so scary. Okay, Omaru asks, who is more messed up, BB or Light? I would almost say BB. Because Light wasn't ever trying to live up to anyone's expectations. Light just had this insane God complex and just kind of like it just took over and it was the Death Note let it flourish like a vine and grow out of control. Whereas, yes, Bernard hits it on the head. Lawful evil versus chaotic evil. Yes, like BB was just out and like the fact that BB was going to become the fourth victim, it gave me a lot of Seven vibes. If you've watched that movie from the 90s called Seven, it gave me a lot of John Doe vibes from that movie. BB's character did in like the creepiest of ways. The entire book honestly gave me Seven vibes. I was having like just thinking of the movie Seven while reading this, being like, this is kind of like that in a weird way, right? If BB Kinderheim 501, ha! BB because of his mergers. What if BB had the Death Note? No, he had the Shinigami eyes. BB did not need the Death Note. He would have been absolutely unstoppable. Let's not go there, Amaru. So I don't know if you guys have seen this book or not. If you have not, on the inside cover, I love that there's this film that is through it, and it's transparent. So when you open it up, you can see who you think is Elle and Naomi on the cover, but who we actually find out is BB and Naomi on the cover. And then we have the Shinigami eyes represented on either side, which is so creepy. And yeah, and then on the inside of the one eye there, you can barely see it, it's L and B next to each other. Like, oh, so good. But yeah, so I want to talk about the novel with you all because it's really good. The biggest surprise starting off reading was the fact that what's in the box was the fact that Mello is narrating. The way that this novel is written is so unique and it's very intriguing with Mello as the narrator because one, you don't expect Mello to be the narrator of the story because we've not gotten Mello hardly at all in the anime and manga in comparison to the other characters. And plus, when people were telling me about the LABB murders, I was thinking, okay, it's back when Elle worked with Naomi. So this is back in the past. It's before Mello and Near are even involved. But then you get the idea that, no, this is all happening around the same time. And so Mello is like translating and reenacting accounts from Elle. And so it's really cool. I liked it an awful lot. But with this, did you know anything about the book before you started reading? The only thing I knew about the book, Karin, before I started reading was that it was about Naomi and Elle meeting and working together. Or so I thought. That was the only thing that I knew about it. right? And then Electric Tyrone. How can you have the Shinigami eyes without having the Death Note? That is the mystery, right? The mystery of BB's character is that he's seemingly either born with Shinigami eyes or he inherits them as an infant. How that works, I don't know. I don't know how a baby makes a deal with the Shinigami, or if the parents made a deal with the Shinigami. I don't know. That's the one thing we don't know in the story is how did BB get the Shinigami eyes? We don't know. It's not explained because there seemingly is no explanation. He just has them and it deeply affects his character. And so BB's whole thing is he kind of goes crazy because he can see everyone's lifespans and knows when they're going to die, but he can't really do much about it. And then he's also stuck in the shadow of L, right? I thought it was insane that BB in the story, we don't realize that the person that Naomi is interacting with the entire time is BB. I was like, the whole time that they were interacting with who we think is L, I was like, Naomi, you're being kind of mean to L here without realizing it's L, but it was BB she was talking to the entire time. And I like Be Happy's comment about Mello is narrating to show Near he knows more about L. That's actually hilarious. I love that. Truck says there's a theory that BB's parents are a Shinigami, that one of BB's parents is a Shinigami, and that's why there's so sex between humans and Shinigami is a rule in the Notebook. Oh my God. That's so weird. Weird. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know, but it's Death Note, so who knows? Who even has an idea? The point is he has Shinigami eyes, and that's what's creepy about it, right? Can we talk about, though, the idea that Naomi interacting with who she thinks is L when it's actually BB? Can we talk about that? Because that part was, I think, so fascinating when you go back and reread. Because I went back to the story and reread parts of it after finishing the novel because I was just like, oh, so this entire time we see Naomi call L, interact with him via phone with the fake voice, and then we see her go to the crime scene with interacting with who she thinks is L, who we, the audience, think is L because it looks like him from the description. But then we find out that it's not. It's BB the entire time. Omaru, she does meet him at the end. Naomi does meet L at the very end. He calls himself Ryuzaki, and she feels like she has seen him before. So I thought that too. But then when I went back and reread it, I was like, at the very, very end, she finally does meet him briefly. And he introduces himself as Ryuzaki. He takes the Ryu Ryuzaki name from BB and uses it as his own. I loved that fact that L constantly takes detectives' names that he's bested. He takes the names of those detectives that he's bested and uses them himself. Like he does a Kirby where he absorbs them in. And so what's so fascinating is one, Ryu Ryuzaki. It's kind of like you're going to rue the day and uses it for himself in the crime scene with Light later on. But the idea that Naomi was always with BB and not L is just, it's the most disturbing thing. Like, I would love to see this animated into an OVA. I would love to see this into a movie or an OVA or something, but it's so creepy. And I think it would be off-putting for us, the audience. I don't know if we could watch this in an OVA because unless they animated BB to make him look exactly like L, we, the audience, would know that it's not L. But the novel gives just enough description to make us think that it's L when it's actually BB in makeup. So I think if they animated it, it would take away from that element of surprise that the novel has in it. Let me look at the chat here. Naomi did not think that he was L. The readers thought she was talking with L. Yes, exactly. Yeah. She thought she was just with a detective. You're right, Truck. But we, the audience, thought that it was L when it actually wasn't. And Bernard Black, I love the scene where L eats jam with his hands, but it's BB and it would look like a bloody mess. Here's the thing. So I have under here Naomi's interactions with BB, who is actually disguised as L. And what's fascinating about it is that there are signs that BB was not L for us, the audience, that entire time. Like the strawberry jam scene that you're talking about, Bernard, that strawberry jam scene. Would L, who's pretty conscious about his hygiene, would he stick his hand into a jar of jam and scoop it out and eat it with his bare hands? going back and rereading that, I'm like, wait, no, he wouldn't. He would have taken like a little spoon or like a toothpick or some like weird little scoop, and he would have like slowly and delicately eaten. He would never have stuck his hand in the jar and scooped it out. Like that just shows kind of BB's insanity of like trying to imitate Elle and do what he thinks Elle would do, but not doing it correctly. It's like an uncanny valley sort of thing. So there was that. There was the idea of BB hiding under the bed when they first met Naomi. I was like, wait a minute, would they have really would Elle have really hid under the bed? No, he would have been like in plain sight, like in the hotel room, like when he meets the task force for the first time. He wouldn't have been hiding under a bed. Like that's again something that is only for BB, but they're imitating Elle, thinking that Elle would do that. So that was interesting. And then I wanted to point out in the book something that during when I first read, I was so sad about and I felt so bad. But then after reading the book, I was like, oh. So it's on page 55 in the book. She has her conversation with Elle after she meets BB, who is disguised as Elle, and we, the audience, think is Elle. Now, like Truck pointed out, Naomi does not know who she's talking to, but she just knows he's a creepy detective. But we, the audience, are led to believe that it's Elle. We're led to believe that it's Elle that she's talking to. So on page 55, she is talking to Elle on the phone, and she says that it wasn't me that figured it out. How can I put it this way? A kind of mysterious private detective. And she's like, that expression nearly made her laugh. Just showed up. And then Elle says, I see, and falls silent. And in that moment, when I first read it, I was like, okay, Elle has realized that Naomi is talking about him. But the reality is, Elle just realized Naomi was in a room with a stranger that he doesn't know. That he's like, wait, why are you in the room with a detective? That wasn't me. Who did you talk to? And so then, after their uncomfortable silence, he says, was he cool? And she says, no, absolutely not. Creepy and pathetic, and so suspicious that if I weren't on leave, I'd move to arrest him the moment I laid eyes on him. If we divided everyone in the world into those that would be better off dead and those that wouldn't, there's no doubt in my mind that he'd be the former. Such a complete freak that it amazes me he hasn't killed himself. And I remember reading that the first time, and I was thinking, if she was talking about Elle, she just told that to Elle. And how does Elle feel? It feels like she just insulted him so hard. But at the moment, but the thing of it is, she wasn't insulting Elle. She was describing BB. And so Elle at this point is thinking, who is she with? So yeah, and I was kind of mad at Naomi in that moment because I was like, damn girl, you're being awfully cold to this person. Like you instantly judged them and viewed them, they were worthy of death. Like, which again, when we go back to BB's character, makes all the more sense. You're like, no wonder he's so messed up. And so it says there was no answer. And then Elle gives her instructions. But I was just like, oh my God. I was like, at the time, I felt really bad for Elle and was like, damn, Naomi, you're just like spitting all these cold things about him. But then you find out later that Elle in that moment realized it was probably BB and was like, oh my God, she's with him. He's on this case. What is happening? And it led to just the plot to go from there. It seems like she's being harsh and cruel to Elle, but that's when she realizes her suspicions are that it's someone nefarious and that it's BB. I love the idea that Elle takes Ryozaki's name like the other detectives in the end. We talked about the Shinigami eyes, which are just like insane. There's a moment too in the novel where BB is perfecting his laugh, like he's getting ready for the final confrontation that BB is going to have with Naomi and Elle, and he's just sitting in front of the mirror trying to figure out how to laugh, which is so scary that this guy doesn't know how to laugh properly. He has to perform laughter, which is just absolutely insane. And yeah, like you said, she was right about him killing himself. Yeah, that was a thing too, that Naomi followed her gut and took what Elle taught her to arrest BB while he was on fire. But the fact that BB was going to make himself the fourth victim and just kill himself and make it an unsolvable crime. Like in the end, his ultimate revenge against Elle was going to be to create a case that Elle couldn't solve. And that was going to be it. I'm like, that it's really tragic. I felt bad in that sense for BB because he was living in the shadow of becoming Elle. And we find out there was another B originally that was going to be Elle, but that B couldn't handle it mentally and like shut down. Like that, like Truck said, it revealed a whole different side of Whammy's house, that these kids, these legit kids and preteens, were just like had a nervous breakdown. Was it A? Okay, A, not B. Yep, it was A. That the one that was supposed to come after Elle like had a freak out. And like Be Happy says, the fact that Elle had a reaction to the Shinigami eyes in Death Note that freaked him out makes so much more sense. Watari was an inventor. He invented trauma. Yeah. I just, we watch the anime and we look at Whammy's house as being like, oh, what a great orphanage with all these kids in it. And then there's all these smart children. And then the novel makes you kind of look back at it and go, wow, this was more than just an orphanage. It was like setting up all these kids to be like a little, like Truck says, a detective factory. And they were all trying to imitate someone that they couldn't possibly imitate. Like even Elle and Mello, even Nier and Mello working together were never fully Elle. Like it's so crazy. Al Edgy, hello, says, I'm always sus of orphanages in anime. Yes. Yeah, basically be suspicious of orphanages. They seem like they're doing good, but there could be something out of it, right? Let me see here. BB acted knowing that Elle would be on the case. That is like, oh my God. And then I feel like one of the really cool things that happens is that when Promise Neverland, one day, Alex Cornejo, I will get to Promise Neverland. We'll talk about that. I'm gonna make a little note here at the end, Promise Neverland, and bring that back up because I did want to say something about that. We'll bring it back up here. But yeah, Naomi, when she finally does meet Elle at the end, like it's on page 172 in the book, and Elle is so much warmer. Like when you see her interact with BB is imitating Elle, and he comes across as very cold and unlikable and very awkward and uncomfortable. But then when she meets Elle in person for real at the end of the novel, he's so much warmer, and he just treats her very much. Even though he's still awkward and socially kind of off, he's still so warm around her, and she feels so welcomed by his presence. It's like, okay, this was the real Elle. Like, this is what you should have been feeling the whole time. And it's like, it's just such a good transition and contrast where you're like, no, BB was just imitating what he thought Elle was like. But Elle, in reality, Elle kind of has like a Levi vibe from Attack on Titan, where he comes across seeming very cold and distant. But then underneath the surface, there is a warmth there that few people get to see. But the few people that get to see it are like, oh yeah. They're like the task force, like Naomi, they're instantly attracted to it. Like light, like you do that. Speaking of attracted and light, I did want to bring this up. That I love shipping. I got to do it. But the part in the novel where Elle tells her he's an aggressive top. Can we bring that up? Can we bring that up? Can we do that where he says that? Can we bring that up and just go ahead and put it out there? That he always tops. Where is that at? I need to find this in here. I need to find out where the part where she somebody's like, wait, what? Yeah, no. I'm gonna find the scene and read it to you all where he says that specifically, because he says, oh my gosh, if somebody knew the page number, I will find it on here. I should have marked it. Let me see if I can find where he tells her about topping. Elle speaking Gax. Oh my God. It's at the very beginning of the story where he tells her about this. He's on the phone with her, and let me see, looking for fingerprints, because she's just like, what do I do with this information that I received from him? Everybody's like, no. Let me see, where is that at? He's like, I'm Elle. And I wish I could find it. If somebody knew the page number, I would be able to find it instantly. Let me see here. You reached the scene. Was it Elle or BB that says it? That's the question. He says, was it L or BB that says it about topping? I need to find out where that part is, because I nearly freaked out. I was like, wait a minute, what was happening? Y'all, I'm sorry, I'm making you wait before I find this exact moment. Everybody in the chat is like, oh my God. It's the Top L Supremacy Challenge. Where is it at? Y'all, I hate that I'm making you wait for me to find it in here. I should have marked it. There. Oh, if anybody, it's too important. We'll wait. Where is it at? Oh my God. I'm like sweating here. It's like when you're trying to find the answer to a test and you're being timed and you're like, where is it? Literally. Oh my God. This is problematic. We need to hear this. This is YouTube, not OnlyFans. Where is the top section? Oh, here we go. Yes, I found it. Yay! We found. Yay. Okay. It is on page 82 of the novel. And this is so Wheaties. Oh my God. And you forgot your lines. Yes. Okay, we forgot. We got it. He says, is she on the phone? Yep, she's on. So this is Elle she's talking to. She's talking about the fourth victim. She says, they're talking, the third murder's already happened and we can't prevent that, but there's a chance we could stop the fourth. Rather than waste time looking for a message, we already know what it says. It would be far more constructive to look for a message leading us to the fourth victim. And Naomi says, that feels so submissive, like we're following his lead. I mean, we might miss an important clue to his identity if we skip this room. Even if there's some clear evidence, we might get a feeling or a hunch that will help us out later. I agree preventing the fourth murder is important, but if we focus on that too much, we'll lose a chance to get aggressive and take control of the situation. And so then Elle says, don't worry, I'm a top. A top. Oh, it's Ryuzaki that says this. Oh, Ryuzaki says an aggressive top. Ryuzaki says, I have never once been submissive. One of the few things I can boast about. I have never even been submissive to a traffic signal. No, you really should. Never. Adamant. Oh, preventing the fourth murder. Yep. And then the body was lying on its back. Ryuzaki, isn't this another example? Okay. Yeah. No, it was Ryuzaki that said this. Okay. Ryuzaki said that they were always an aggressive top. Oh my God. Oh, okay. So Ryuzaki, BB was saying they were an aggressive top. Okay. Well. At the time, reading, I thought Ryuzaki was L. So I was like, oh, L's an aggressive top. But no, it was BB. It was on page 82 in the book. They're going over the case, trying to stop the murders, and she's with Ryuzaki in the room. Yep, they're over there. Yeah, Ryuzaki, something wrong, Mizora. Yep, that's what it is. Uh-huh. Page 82. The book is great. I highly recommend the LABB Murders. I'm going to put page 82, BB top. Yep. As I put that in the chat. So yeah, honestly, the way that this story is written, it's really, really good. I love the way that this novel is written. It's so much fun to read. It reads really quickly and it's not that long. It's only 172 pages. So it's not long at all. Like I ended up reading it in like 2 days. I read it off and on and it was so good. I was like, and when you go back, the nice thing about it is it has such rereadability. When you go back, you can reread it and you get so much more out of it. I like that. Maru, it's BB versus Light top battle. Oh, Light's a bottom. Light wants to think that he's a top, but no. Light's fantasy is that he is a top, but we all know better. We're like, there is no way that Light is a top. As I spill soda all over myself. BB and Light. There we go. We'll ship Light with BB. That would be terrifying. Lawful versus chaotic evil. No, the world's not ready. That's why BB and Light can never meet. Could not. He's as delusional about being top as he is a god. I should respect Light's fantasies. That's right. He's living his best fantasy. We should respect that. That's absolutely true. I do want to say I loved the ending where Mello gives the epilogue of the story and it shows Naomi and Elle meeting and it leads back to where we know the story goes to in the anime. And I love the idea that BB, it's sad, but the idea that BB dies mysteriously in 2004, a few months after Light gets the death note of a heart attack. That BB was one of Light's victims inadvertently without even realizing it. It's like, oof. I don't worry, there's 108 BB Light fan fictions in AO3. Man, they were really doing the fix-it fan fiction by having Light and BB together instead of Light killing BB inadvertently. What do we do? That's hilarious. I love that so much. That is great. So I do want to talk about one other thing with y'all before we open it up to any other questions, because we've been on here an hour and 45 minutes, if you can believe it. I wanted to rank the episodes because I love doing episode rankings and I never got a chance to do it when I was talking about the series as a whole. So I started from the 37th spot and worked my way up to number 1. So I wanted to go ahead and just give you guys my quick rundown of where I ranked the 37 episodes, and starting from number 37 and working my way down to number 1. So let me put on here ranking the episodes. All right. Poetic justice, baby. All right. So for ranking the episodes. Oh, interesting, Omaru. I'm terrible at ranking episodes because usually as soon as I say what my ranks are, I instantly have regrets. And I'm like, oh, never mind, I'm at this episode. But I will say my top 5, I am 100% down for. The others, I think you could probably move some of them. But Death Note, the thing about Death Note is there's not any bad episodes. There was not one episode of Death Note that I reacted to that I thought, oh, that episode was boring, or that episode felt like it was eh. There wasn't an episode of Death Note that I was like, man, this episode just felt like a miss. No, they were all really good for different reasons, but somebody has to be last. And if I had to think, Trek kind of hit it on the head. If I had to pick number 37, it was going to be Matsuda. Episode 19. It's not a bad episode. It really isn't. Matsuda is not a bad episode, but it's just, I'm going to put it on here. I know what? As soon as I read it, I was like, no! I did like Matsuda as the episode. Again, this is crossing hairs. It's not a bad episode, but it's just, if I had to put one at the bottom that I would not rewatch, my numbers 30 through 37, I'm kind of like, eh. I would be like, maybe I would rewatch that. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. But I think I agree. Al Edgy brings up a great point. It is overshadowed by the others. It's not a bad episode. Like I said, there is no bad episode of Death Note. It's just overshadowed by the others. And it just feels like you're kind of like, okay, that was fine. It's okay. It's good. We'll talk about episode 26 because it's down towards the bottom too. Number 36 for me, if I'm going to put number 36, is episode 23, which is Frenzy. I think that was my shortest discussion for the entire series. It's okay. They're just catching Higuchi. It's fine. There was no Light or L enough in your episode. Yeah, and maybe that was it, Omaru. Maybe that was it. But Frenzy was kind of just a really fast-paced episode. It was like, eh. And if you swapped any from numbers 30 through 37, I don't think I would argue with you at all. If you swapped Frenzy to last place and bumped Matsuda up some points, I would not be mad at you at all. I'd been like, okay, it's fine. Number 35, I'm going to go with Guidance, which is the episode right before it. That episode is just like, again, I'm not a big fan of the Higuchi arc. I'm like, no, that whole episode with that, and then number 34, we're just going to go ahead and get the ones out of the way before we do is performance. Like the Higuchi arc is one that I'm like, I'm not a big fan of. Ellen like cosplaying nurses and shading Matsuda. I mean, I watched Banana Fish. I've seen enough guys in nurse costumes. I didn't need it repeated with Ellen Light. But how dare me? How dare me? I should not have put it down as low as I did. But I just was not a fan of Higuchi's arc. I was like, meh, it was fine. I will say that number oh, we'll get to where episode number 2 is. I actually rank number 2 really high because I like confrontation for reasons. Number 33 is Renewal. That was the one that Be Happy was just saying is the only like recap-ish episode. And I only put it up as high as I did because we were introduced properly to Mello and Nier. That is the only reason it is as high as it is, because I am not a recap episode fan. I don't like recap episodes. I was really worried watching that episode that it was all going to be recap and nobody had told me about it. And I was like, are we about to watch an entire recap of the first arc? No. And so I was really concerned about that. So I would say, honestly, of all of these, the Higuchi arc is probably the one I would not rewatch if I went back to this series. I'd probably skip over it. The Higuchi arc, I'm like, man. And that leads me to number 32, which is Makeshift, is episode 20. The only reason that Makeshift is higher is because of the Happy Friends scene where Misa and Light and Elle are all holding hands and like dancing around in a circle. That is the only fun thing about episode 20 is that they're dancing around in a circle being like, we're friends. And I'm like, you're all gonna die. Like it's so sad because you think for a second, you're like, wow, if only the happy go friends Nakama vibes could last, but you know in the back of your head that things are about to go awry and things are going to get crazy and it's all short-lived. But I did like them all dancing around like Ring Around the Rosie style. That part was a lot of fun. Okay, number 31. I hope you all don't hate me, but this episode was Friends in Death, right? This episode, I only put it as low as I did because it was just a transitional episode. I put Dealings as 31. It's fine. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not as good as some of the ones that come after it. And I had to put it somewhere. And I was like, It's where we find out about the Shinigami eyes. It's okay. There's nothing bad about the episode. But the dad reveal. Yeah, right. Well, that's why it's 31 and not 35 or 36. The dad reveal. True. That is, like I said, you could bump it up some spots and I would not be mad. Number 30, I have down as, again, you could probably switch Dealings with this. Like I said, I'm filled with regrets as soon as I post this list. I made this list like a day ago and now I'm having regrets. Vigilance, episode 34. I'm going to put it as number 30. It's fine. Again, it's just like, it's basically Nier and Light confronting one another. It's an okay episode. It's not my favorite. It's what it is. And then I would say number 29, I have as Impatience. The episode where Seiyu gets rescued. I put this one down at number 29. Talking to Burning is 35, right? No. Wait, Guidance, no. The one with Talking to Burning, I put up higher. No, I put that one up higher. That is number 35, that episode, and it is up higher on the list for sure. Yeah, we'll get to that episode. I really liked that episode because it was so sad. But I put Impatience as number 29 only because that was probably the weirdest paced episode out of the entire series. Episode 28 is such a weird pacing. It's like they rescue Seiyu, then there's a missile, then the Death Note gets away and goes back to Mello. It's a weird paced episode. And in the manga, it's so much more expanded. It makes so much more sense. But I felt like the anime really rushed it. I felt like if the anime had just expanded the events of Impatience a little bit more, it would have been a much better episode. But it was so rushed and thrown together that I was like, why? But so I really didn't. I think that the issues of saving Seiyu are really important, and that's why it ranks so high for me. But it was such a weird episode. It's the only Death Note episode where I was like, that went by way too quickly. They really should have repaced it. So I'm glad you all agreed too. The missile took me off guard. Yeah, I was like, what is happening? Such a weird thing. Number 28. I have this ranked. Is me shopping filled with regrets the moment I online shop? Yes. All right. You all are not going to like. I'm sure you all will disagree with this next decision, but I have reasons for why this decision is the way that it is. It's the only death note with a missile. Um, Number 28 is wager. I only have this one so low on the list because of personal reasons. I don't appreciate just Misa's situation in that episode makes me very uncomfortable. And that's why I was like, nope. And so that's the only reason I was like, Misa's situation in the wager episode is it's the scene where she's being interrogated by Elle, and it's very uncomfortable. I'm not saying it's a bad episode. It's a great episode, but it's just very uncomfortable for me to watch, and I don't really want to watch it again. So I'm like, so that's why I have it down as low as it is. It's a personal thing. So if you have it ranked much, much higher, I totally understand. Yeah, it's a weird episode. And so I've got it ranked on there for a reason. So yeah, number 27 for me is I think, Bernard, to answer your question, I wasn't too uncomfortable watching it in the musical because I knew what was going to happen. When I watched the reaction of it the first time, I was like, oh God, this is a bit. But I think because I knew in the musical that it was going to happen, it didn't bother me nearly as much. Number 27 is Scorn. We go in different ways, right? Because in episode 15, Misa's in a situation of powerlessness. And in episode 33, she's in a position where she has all the power. And it's just like, in that one, I'm like, girl, what are you doing? And her and Takeda having the dinner scene. It's a great episode, like I said, but I was like, oh my God. It almost felt like added material. And I was like, what was that? Oh my God, truck. Yeah. And so, yes, I agree, Zont That's kind of what got me with the interrogation scene. I'm like, And then Dan, Mogi, I won. Again, I don't mind episode 33. I like it. But in comparison to the episodes ahead of it, I think episode 33 doesn't have as much to offer as the other episodes do in terms of relevance to the overall plot. Like, I'm glad Misa had her moment, and the scene where she's like drinking and has the bottle and she's like, Mogi, I won. And he's like, what? The Takeda dinner is great, but overall, in terms of the plot for everything else, I'm like, it's kind of just a more superfluous episode compared to everything beyond that. Now, episode 26, part 26 here, not episode 26, Decision, episode 16 is my number 26, because that episode, I was like, oh my God, why? And I'm putting it as number 26 because I'm so frustrated with it. We were so close to catching light. We were so close. We were right there. We were there. Elle had it figured out. He'd cracked the code. It was all coming down to the wire. And then Light's like, surprise. And I was like, no. I was just so frustrated. So frustrated with him. I was like, Decision. That one is like, I throw it away. Oh, I've been Team L from the start. Like, that should be no surprise to anyone. I was just like, it was I was rooting for you, L. Light just comes in and just makes that decision and throws everything out of whack. It's just like, it's such a good episode, but it's so frustrating. That's why I put it down as far as I did. It was so frustrating. Number 25 I have down is Abduction, which is episode 27. I ranked it as high as I did because I really like the idea that coming off of losing Elle and coming off of Light seemingly gaining the new world. And I liked putting Decision and Abduction back to back because in Decision, Light makes a choice that essentially allows him to win the game. Like, Light wins because of that decision. He put everything into motion that he needed to win against Elle, and that was the episode that started the catalyst, right? And then Abduction is the episode that takes it all away. And that's what's so fascinating about that. Got me into part 2. I was like, okay, Abduction. All right. So there's these new characters. They're successors of Elle. They're not afraid to kidnap Seiyu. They're not afraid to get down and dirty and personal. They are not afraid to just do things and ask for permission later. I was like, okay, show, because that was always Elle's thing, was Elle wanted to not do anything until he had proof and solid evidence. And that became his downfall. And then in Abduction, you realize, oh no, they're these Mello and Near are not afraid to play dirty. They can play just as dirty as Light does. And I was like, oh, and so that got so fascinating. Mello's face when he's asked to work with Near. Yes, where he's like, it has like the big eyes. Oh, and I do feel bad for Seiyu. I was like, she is a victim in all this. She did not ask to be kidnapped. It's awful, but that upped the ante of the stakes of the series of, okay, this is what we're going to do. Cool show. I'm all about it. Number 24, I only have it here because I don't have any other place to put it. And so I was like, this is a good spot for it. It's Doubt. It's the episode where Light and Elle meet in the cafe and they have the conversation, and then Soichiro has a heart attack and they go to see him in the hospital. It's a good episode. I love the episode. In the manga, their mom is there too. Light's mom is there as well. Is it the tennis episode? It might be the tennis episode. I couldn't decide if it was the tennis episode or if Encounter was the tennis episode. Maybe Doubt is the tennis one. It should rank higher if it's the tennis one. So then I have more regrets. So if it is the tennis episode, I shouldn't have ranked it as low as it is, but here we are. So I can't change now. But yeah, I like Doubt. I didn't have anything bad to say about it. So it's smack dab right in the middle. It's like, yeah, the Light line, I couldn't be happier. That's such a good episode. Yep, it's the episode where they go on a date. Yes. Why should we not? And why not follow that date episode up with number 23, which is, again, Friend, episode 14. This was an episode I really didn't have anything wrong with it. I just didn't have it as high up as some of the other episodes that I liked. And the only reason that I ranked it here is because thank you. I think the match ended already. Good. Thank you, Dan. I think in the Friend episode, I would have ranked it higher had it not been for the fact that we find out later that Elle lied. The fact that Elle lied and that he wasn't really Light wasn't really his first friend. I was like, well, man, yep, you're my friend, Light. I do love in that episode, though, where Light gets back and he's like, I'll be your friend. And he's like crossing his legs. I don't know if that's this episode or not. It's right before Wager. So I think maybe it is not. I'm going to put the Mikami episodes together. Number 22 is Transfer, which is episode 21. And number 21, oddly enough, if we'll write them down together, is Selection, which is episode 22. So we're going to do like a little reversal there. Yeah. The idea of Mikami's introduction and his backstory. What a crazy introduction. If this is one of your top episodes, I totally don't blame you. I really don't. The explanation of Mikami's backstory and the reveal that Light chose him to replace him is such a good twist. It's so good. I was like on the edge of my seat. Noi, you're talking about Misa's investigation being hard. Yeah, that point where Elle reveals that he's willing to do things that will give him a result is such a shocking revelation to us, the audience, because we've been thinking the whole time that Elle's on the good side, right? He's trying to uncover Light and do the good thing for justice. And then you see kind of behind the curtain the links at which he's willing to go as well. And it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's a good point, Noi, to bring out. But yeah, if you chose Mikami's introduction and backstory as one of your favorite episodes, I totally get it. I just put it here because Mikami, like I said, he's not like my favorite character in the show. He's fine. This episode's fine. But I did rank it high enough because I thought the twist was really, really good. I thought the twist was great. Number 20. We're in the top 20 now. Top 20. Yeah. So the top 20 episodes. Number 20. This episode's not my favorite, but it's relevant. And so that's why I put it as number 20. And that's Execution. I think that this episode is... Oh, wait. Oh, you're right. It's not. I wrote that wrong. Sorry. It should have been numbers 31 and 32 with Mikami. Oh, you're right. Be Happy. You're right. Yep. That's right. Yep, there we go. I'm going to correct it in the chat there. Yep, it should be 31 and 32 with Me. Thank you. Thank you, Be Happy. But yeah, number 20 is Execution, which is episode 17. It's not my favorite episode, and if you ranked it lower, I would not blame you a bit. But I ranked it as number 20 because I think the whole issue of Soichiro, the whole event of Soichiro threatening to kill Light to find out if he's Kira or not is so relevant to the plot, not only leading up to Elle's death, but to Mello afterwards figuring out that Light is Kira. And that reveal that Nier figures out that Light is Kira based on what Soichiro does in episode 17 is such a cool twist and a cool tie back that I really, really love it. I love the idea that that's how Nier figures it out, and that he connects it back together. It's great. And the lines, like y'all said, from one murder to another, I'll see you in hell, Light. Like, that is so damn epic. That is so epic. And yes, oh my gosh. So Dan Simmons says the episode blew me away because I watched it as a kid and I didn't know it wasn't the last episode. So in my head, Light could actually die. That's such a good point. Yeah. It's not only, I think, knowing that it's not the last episode kind of ruins it for us, the audience, if we know ahead of time. But yeah, if you watched it in the moment, you're like, Soichiro could have killed Light if you didn't know any better. And I just love like the line where he's like, I'll see you in hell, son. And like all of that. It's so badass and cool. And it's such a great twist. And I love it's a twist that the mangaka brought back later on and gave relevance to. Just such a good episode. I loved episode 17. It's great. Number 20. Number 19 and 18, they go together. And those are Tactics and Pursuit, which are episodes 4 and 5. Yep. I really love, and the handcuffs. Yes, Karine. I love Tactics and Pursuit. The episodes with Ray Pimbar, where he's introduced, where Light has to go on a date to the theme park with the girl that he tricks. And then in the bus, it reveals to us the idea the Death Note can manipulate when people kill others. And yeah, like I said, at this point, the top 20, my top 5, I'm pretty satisfied with as far as where they're ranked. But from like 6 to 20, if you wanted to move these all around, I wouldn't blame you a bit. I've been like, yep, nope, that's awesome. And I thought about putting them up further, but I think with episodes 4 and 5, they're ones of the top 20 I would rewatch the least. I don't think I'd go back to the Ray Pimbar story as much, but I do really like the episodes. They're solid. The plot's really good. Ray Pimbar's character, his death is so tragic that you're just like, and it's the first time we see a death by Light that's so premeditated and calculated that you just look at Light going, oh, you are dangerous. And you're going to make this series really complicated. Okay. But yeah, RIP, F's to Ray Pimbar in the chat. He tried his best. Number 17. And not a criminal. Yeah. And Ray Pimbar, that was also the first time in the series where we looked at Light and we're like, Ray wasn't a criminal and you killed him. What? So yeah, L husband. Number 17 is my guilty pleasure episode. I'm just gonna tell y'all it's my guilty pleasure episode. Y'all can hate me. Number 17's Ally. I Boy Scout Light with the handcuffs. Boy Scout Light with the handcuffs and them duking it out on the couch in the room with Misa. It's my guilty pleasure episode. I remember people bottom Light. It's the episode where the Light is in Boy Scout mode and Elle and them are they're handcuffed together. They have a fight. Friendship, soft Light. Everybody dogs the Boy Scout Light arc so much. But I honestly enjoyed it because it showed us a side of Light before Death Note that we didn't get a chance as the audience to see. Because when we start episode 1, Light immediately gets the Death Note, and then suddenly he's on a warpath to change the world and become God of the New World. And we don't really get to see what Light was like before he got the Death Note, his softer side. And Light's still smart in Boy Scout mode. He just has this like kind of innocent sense of justice. And what I love Bernard says secret bottom side. What I love about it is that Light gives off this whole other view of himself that we don't see as the audience. And you almost start to like, I knew it was coming. I knew that Light wasn't always going to stay like this. And I was like, Light is going to eventually change back into the Light that we all know from the series leading up to this point. But I was starting to, with episode 18, I was starting to regret it. And I was like, I just want a little more of Boy Scout Light, just a little bit more. And I agree with Noi. It is the funniest episode of the series. It's so funny. But yes, it does have proof that the Death Note did open up that corruption gateway, right? And Truck says he thinks it's a secret, but as a softie, he's open to being a soft bottom. Oh my gosh. Number 16. Y'all wanted to know where it was at on here. Here's where it's at. Number 16 is Malice, the episode where Mello and Takeda die, the big episode where Matt dies, all the deaths in the one episode. Like, it's like, compared to Silence, it's like the most deaths all at once. And it's really sad, but it's like, oof, it all just comes crashing down, right? Be happy you are not wrong. I would totally love a fantasy AU where Boy Scout Light never gets his memory back and he lives with L. But yeah, Mello being underrated in that episode. Malice is such a good episode. I love that one. Matt dying, I was heartbroken. And then Mello, in one moment, the moment where Mello is in the truck and he sees Matt's death and he's like, Matt, I'm sorry I couldn't avenge you. I felt that. I felt bad for Mello and Matt. And I was like, I've barely known you guys in this series and I'm feeling emotions for you. It was like, damn. And I felt bad for Takeda by the end because she just burns alive. Like, it just, that everything kind of goes up in smoke, pun intended, in that episode. And it's so good. I love it. All right. So number 15, I honestly didn't know where to put this episode. Malice is a hard one, but I really like it. It's definitely Light's coldest murders. And I think it deserves to be up in the top. This episode had so much, number 15 had so much hype for it. But in hindsight, it's not an episode I necessarily would go back and rewatch, but I wasn't sure where to put it. So this was probably the best place to put it. And that's 1.28. Yeah. So Dan, Malice is a fire episode. Oh, that's great, Dan. That's great. Yes. No, 1.28 is such a hype episode. I watched it right before Christmas. I think I put it so high up on the list because it's just so damn like hype for the final episode, and it's so good. Light just like Light's monologue, like Omaru says, where you just know Mikami is coming in to kill them all, and Light's just like letting the madness show. It's so good, and Miyano's voice acting in 36 and 37 is S tier. It's living up to the God complex. It's so good. And yes, him getting offended by the L mask. I loved 36 because the moment he sees Near, this man that does not care for L, by the way, is like, how dare he wear a mask? He doesn't deserve to wear that mask of L. I was like, Light, who are you fooling? It's such a good episode. He's soft. You're too soft, Near. Yes. Oh my God. It's such a good episode. The only thing that holds it back from going any higher for me is the fact that it's a setup episode for the finale. That's the only thing, is that usually setup episodes, I'm kind of like more hesitant toward my favorite episodes. So I'm like, okay, I'll place you high for that. And usually 2-part episodes, I don't place too close together, but I say that. And then number 14 and number 13. Number 14 and number 13 for me are Love and Confession, which are 12 and 13 respectively. The whole thing with Misa's introduction and Light doing his charm thing where he's like, oh, Misa, I'm going to love you and we're going to rule the world together. The toxic relationship of Misa and Light being founded in this episode set is so good. And what more iconic shot can you get than Rim and Ryuk standing on either side of them as they hug it out, like getting his top fantasy with Misa. Yes. Oh, Truck, Light is not having a top fantasy with Misa. Misa is topping for sure. There's no way. Misa bottoms for no one. So yeah, no. I just absolutely Bernard, you're not wrong. yeah, this episode ensured his win against L Amaru. I agree. I feel like that dramatic hug. I feel like this is the moment where Light was like, I can win this. I've convinced Misa to be mine. I've got it all in the bag. We're going to beat L, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I feel like this is the moment where Light was convinced he could do this. So I love both those episodes, and I like Misa getting to know her character more in Love and Confession. It's just, they're two really good episodes. No one said he was going to pretend. No one said he was going to pretend to be her BF. Yeah, Light was like, we're not boyfriend and girlfriend. And she's like, so we're boyfriend and girlfriend, right? And he's like, she could kill me. What I also liked about that episode in Confession was that it sets up the idea that Rim is a threat. Because Rim is like, no, you're going to treat Misa fine or I'll kill you. So in that moment, it sets up not only Misa and Light's relationship, but that Light can't just use Misa because Rim is there to be a buffer and make sure that Light just doesn't do whatever he wants. And Ryuk's just like, I'm just here for the good time. Ryuk's like, I'm just here for the apples. I don't know what you want me to do. Number 12. It does bring a lot of chaos to the story, yes. Number 12, I put down as Glare, which is the rule of 8. The episode 8, it's the classic theme where Elle's like sitting there like your son's very interesting. That's the episode where the one right before Love, where Elle realizes that he has he's like, your son is quite interesting, where he kind of figures out that Light's someone that could be Kira. I love that episode. It's so good. It's just classic Elle moments. It's the one right after Naomi's death, so we needed an episode like that. It is the one with the potato chip scene. Yes. Yes. And I know some of you are going to put this in your top 5. The damn potato chips. I had to put it up here. The potato chip scene. Yeah. I take a chip and I eat it. I would say that I went back and rewatched that episode because I was trying to figure out where to put Glare. I really like Glare as an episode. Elle's secret voyeurism fetish. Oh my God. See, look, here's the thing. No, here's the thing. Here is the thing. Elle being asexual makes total sense, and that he's into kind of the voyeurism thing, right? It makes total sense if Elle is asexual, but is into watching something like that. No, makes perfect sense. I'm here for it. Headcanon, done. We're all good. But yeah, I went back and rewatched this episode because I wasn't sure where to put it. And I will say that the potato chip scene is iconic. It's the top 5 in the whole series. But as a whole, for the episode, outside of the potato chip scene, the episode's fine. But it's not like I feel like the potato chip scene is amazing, but I didn't feel like it made the entire episode more elevated than some of the others. But if you were asking about top 5 scenes in Death Note, the potato chip scene in Glare is definitely one of them. Just as a whole, the episode's kind of like, it's fine. But it does prove that, like Omaru says, Elle is not to be messed with. He's willing to go the distance to get what's done. As for the Playboy episode, yeah. But yeah, Elle's just sitting there watching Light 24/7 on surveillance. What do we do with that, right? Number 11 is Confrontation, which is episode 2. I like Confrontation a lot. I know a lot of people had it way, way, way down on their list, but I think Confrontation is important because it's the first episode where we have Elle in it, and it's when Elle is introduced, and Light is met with his nemesis for the entire series and realizes that being the god of the new world is not going to be as easy as he thought it would be. So yeah, I really like Confrontation. It's so good. It's a great, usually the second episode of any anime series is really hard because you have a pilot episode and then you have the second episode and you got to follow up that pilot. And I feel like Confrontation is so good because it is like a great follow-up to the beginning of the series, introducing Elle, introducing Light being like, I am justice and writing on the scribble. Yeah, I really love it. Confrontations is such a good episode. Yeah, well, I thought some people earlier in the chat put it like down lower when I was talking about like the first episodes I picked, but maybe they were telling me that it was their favorite. We're going to just give them the benefit of the doubt and say that was it. So we're in the top 10. The top 10 are based on episodes I think are most important to the plot, plus episodes that are iconic, plus my guilty pleasures of storylines I really, really, really like. and stories and episodes that surprised me. Confrontation just barely got out of the top 10. And I think if I didn't feel it necessary to put this one as number 10, I would have put Confrontation as number 10. You could probably switch this out with Confrontation, but I put Rebirth as number 10. It's the starter episode of the series. It's the pilot episode. It's good. It's great. It's light, being introduced with everything. It's just such a good, iconic and no potato chip. I'm disappointed. Rebirth is a great episode. It's the first episode. It has to be in the top 10. His first Light killing his first victim. Like, it needed to be in the top 10. It's not an episode I instantly go back and rewatch, but it is. And that's your first place, Cody. No, I totally get it, y'all. That's the problem with ranking Death Note episodes. They're all so good. You could rank these. Those that said Matsuda was their favorite episode, I'd be like, you could probably give me a justification for it. It's just such a good episode. It's not one that I would rewatch, but it's one that I can't deny how well it sets up the entire series. It just is so good. Yes. But I agree with Alex Cornejo, going back to Glare. The episode needing potato chip scene is proof the rest of the episode. But I would say that, yeah, one of the greatest pilot episodes is Rebirth. I totally agree. Number 9, I love this episode because it's the moment we really meet Elle face to face. It's unraveling. I love that. And Elle's smile where he's like, good will always triumph over evil. And again, like with Execution, that line from Elle comes back. If you look at the manga, there is a scene. If you look at there's a scene where Nier, when he confronts Light in the warehouse at the very end, Nier is making the same face that Elle makes when he says that good will always triumph over evil. He's making the same face. And I'm like, Glare is like my favorite voyeurism hentai. Oh man, Glare is such a good episode, but Unraveling, that's my jam. I love the introduction with Watari, with Elle, him meeting them for the first time, them all getting the fake names. It's so good. It's like, and then just getting to see Elle like in action and his methods of going about getting to Light. It's just, yes. I love it so much. And so let's go ahead and do number 8. Number 8 is my guilty pleasure of the top 10 list. And so I know a lot of people are going to be like, why is this so high? But you're going to have to humor me for a second. Just humor me for a second. Humor me in that number 8 for me is Justice. It's the episode where Nier escapes with the help of the money from Elle's account. And I know what you're thinking. You were like, why is this so high up on the list? But I'm like, listen, at this point in the series, I was like, how the hell is Nier getting out of this situation? There is no way Light is not going to capture Nier. There's no way. And then he uses Elle's money to flaunt dollar bills into the sky at the guy from Sakura TV and everything. They dress up in the SWAT suits. He has his toys in his hands. It's so funny. It's ridiculous. Literally throwing money at the problem. He's Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged saying, screw the rules, I have money. That's literally how he does it. Yes. Cancel me now before it's too late. Yes, no. That is my guilty pleasure on the top 10 list. I fully understand why people be like, why the hell? But that's just, Nier said, bitch, I'm rich. Like, that's what we're going to do. It's an episode that I was completely surprised by. And I honestly, if I'm being honest, I will go back and rewatch that episode only because of Light's reaction. Light's reaction being like, are you kidding? He was so ready to get Nier. He had Misa waiting to uncover Nier and kill him. Everything was set up. Light had it all put in place. And Nier just says, actually, I'm going to be ridiculous. And this is how I'm getting out of it. I'm like, it makes me laugh every time I watch the episode. I've watched it a few times now where if I go back, I'm like, I just want to see Light be completely dumbfounded by the plot. And it's so good. I love it so much. Number 7, to go on a completely different note. And yes, like Omaru says, it exposes that Light's followers are not faithful And just because they like Kira doesn't mean they're not easily persuaded by other things, and that Light's not the absolute ruler he may think that he is. So I do like that about episode 32. Number 7 is the polar opposite of Justice, and that is Father. Episode 29. Father is that's such a scary episode. Because one, Soichiro, I had to put it high up on the list because Soichiro dies, which is super sad, and it needed to be noted, but also because it's Soichiro's death, and it shows just how far Light has fallen. It's such a demanding and crazy episode because we've come to love Soichiro over the course of the series. And you always had in the back of your mind that something bad was going to happen to him. Like you always knew you're like, he's going to die, isn't he? And then when he gave up half of his lifespan to the Shinigami, that you were like, oh crap, he's going to, is he going to die before he gets done? What's going to happen? And then the fact that he dies thinking that Light is not Kira is good for Soichiro. But we as the audience are like that just, and Light just being like so cold in that moment. Like there's a moment that Light, and the tragic thing is we as the audience, we're not sure if Light was truly grieving for his father or if it was an act. At this point in the series, by the time we get to episode 29, we've seen Light lie so much that it's hard to know if he's being sincere or if it's just him acting. And that's what's so incredible about that episode for me, is that I still don't know. Even reading the manga, I still don't know if it's a mixture, if it's both. He's lied so much that you don't know what's reality and what isn't anymore. And got me so good in the episode that I was like, nope, I'm going to put it up there. I know some people said that number 6, this one is one of their top favorite episodes. But I'm going to put it on here as number 6 only because, and I've got a reason for it, but number 6 for me is Revival. Oh my God. And there's a reason why it's number 6 and not any higher. Oh my God. There's a reason. I was like, I knew from the moment we got the Boy Scout Light arc that Light was going to come back and come back ablazing. And you just knew. And the whole Boy Scout arc made you think, you were like, well, he's going to come back. And Omaru, I know it's your number 1, and I don't blame you, because I'm like, he's going to come back. And during the Boy Scout and Higuchi arc, I was like, maybe he won't. But the moment he does according to plan, I was like, no. I was like, no. The moment he says according to Kekaku, I was like, no, he's gonna die. I was like, I knew L was dying. The moment he came back, I was like, no. I was so sad. I was like, several of you in the Patreon Discord have said that you're like, oh, we love angsty stories and we like the sadness. I'm like, I like angst with a happy ending. And the moment he came back and said all according to Kikaku, I was like, we're not getting a happy ending. I was like, the moment he said that, I was like, oh no, the happy ending that I thought maybe Elle could have is not going to happen. And that episode was so traumatizing because you just know. You just know it's all going there. Because it traumatizes me so much, I had to put it as number 6. because it was so traumatizing. I was like, even Eisen claps in episode 24. He was like, that's my boy. Oh, I know. Oh man, yeah. There was no chance of Elle having a good ending, but I was really convinced that maybe it would happen throughout the course of the Boy Scout arc, but no, not at all. Okay, so top 5. Number 5 is for me one of the most surprising episodes in the series because it introduced something that was crazy, which was Assault, episode 11. There was so much to love about this episode. So much to love. The idea of Misa being introduced from behind the scenes as another Kira, another set of eyes, someone that could kill people without knowing their face. Like Assault is the episode where Misa kills from the studio, where basically the second Kira first appears. And we get to see like Soichiro runs an entire truck through a building, and Light from the sidelines is like, oh, another Kira has appeared. Oh my gosh. Like Ukita dies. Yes. I think for me, what makes it so iconic is the fact that I was coming into this series blind. I had never seen Death Note. I knew nothing about it. So I thought, 10 episodes in, I thought it was just going to be Light versus L. I thought that was going to be it. I was like, it's just going to be Light versus L, like Sherlock and Moriarty. And we're just going to have like all these cat and mouse near misses the entire series. I never in 1,000 years would have expected there to be another Death Note or another Kira or Shinigami Eyes. And it was one of those things like, what? Like just a complete out of nowhere moment that I did not see coming. And I had to put it in the top 5 because it was just, and I get that, yeah, it may not be the most exciting episode in comparison to some others, but for me, I think it completely changed the game of the series and introduced these other concepts that I hadn't even thought of. And so I felt like I needed to put it up in the top 5 just because of how important it is to the overall story. Because yeah, you 10 episodes in, you think you have an understanding of how the story is going to go, and then suddenly like, oh wait, no, we're only a third of the way in. It doesn't have an iconic scene, but overall it's a good episode. Yeah, and the suspense was pretty good because you think it's Light the whole time, and you're like, well, how is Light doing this? And then that end credit where Light's like, must be somebody else with the Death Note. You're like, what? And then the ending where Misa's like walking down the road with Rim behind her being like, oh, I'll find Light and I can kill him because I have the Shinigami eyes. It's like, it's just, oh my God. We think something's off with Light, but it wasn't him the entire time. Number 4, I have to put it on here. Overcast. R.I.P. Naomi. Number 4 is Overcast with Naomi. Girl, I was so sad that Naomi died in this episode. I was like, oh my God. And it's so iconic. The brutality, as Bernard say, the brutality of Light killing her and making her go kill herself. And especially once you read this book and you see it, you get to know Naomi a little bit more. I'm like, dang. And if it's your number 1, Noi, I get it. Because I was like, damn, this episode. It's just because I am Kira. I was like that. And it's so early on. It's the 7th episode in. Naomi's about to catch Light. And you're like, well, how's Light going to get out of it? And how he gets out of it is he kills her. And we, the audience, are like, oh my God. I was floored with how cold of an ending it was. And it's so well calculated and smart. And Light plays up to like her emotions and gets her like, he lures her like he's like the snake with the apple, tempting her the entire latter half of that episode. And you're just like, oh my God, the walk between them. It's just, and then him checking his watch and looking up at her and being like, because I'm Kira. And then she's like, and it's too late. It is so good. And it's the first time someone points out that Light is similar to L. Yeah, Omaru, yeah. And that piques Light's interest because he's like, what do you mean we're similar? And that, on that note, leads to number 3, which is one of my favorite episodes, Encounter. Oh, I am L. I am L. That episode, the red and blue versions of them. Just so good. Over Encounter, where the 2 of them together, and we see when Light looks back and sees L behind him taking the test. It's so freaking good. I love that episode so much. It is not my first place. No, there's still 2 episodes. My top 2 are cemented as my top 2. They are the best episodes in the series for me. I had to put Encounters number 3 because of I Am L and them encountering each other. Like, what an iconic thing. And the geeky girl. Yes, the geeky girl that's attracted to L. Like, bless her. She's a saint. She's just like, I really like him. It's kind of like my friends in high school. We all love Lord of the Rings. And we all chose the different. We had a club in high school that was called the Pervy Hobbit Fancier Society. which is exactly what it is. Bye, truck. Have fun too. And then there was the one person in the group that had to like Sam. And we were like, oh, okay. But yeah, so that leaves the top two. My number two is definitely an episode that I've rewatched so many times, it's not even funny. And that's New World. Yeah, she did come back. The one girl did come back in the 10th episode. New World. It's, yes, the final episode. So freaking good. So good. I've rewatched that episode so many times in the English dub and the sub. Like, it's absolutely amazing. Miyano Mamoru, his monologue as Light at the end, and the iconic laugh, him standing in the shadows being like, I am Kira. Like, just, oh, it's so impressive. And I know some people are going to point out like the plot holes, whatever, don't care. I was like, it's so damn good. And it's such an amazing, hey Yoshi, and it's such an amazing ending. It sums everything up. It's so perfect. I absolutely love it. I'm like, it's so darn good. It's it was Miyano episodes, not Light. Yeah. It is so good. And the only one for me that can top it, the only episode I have swore in Death Note, it has to be said, it's Silence. That episode hurts so much. It hurts me so much, that episode, but it's so, the tension of that episode is so insane, and Elle actually dying. Like, the fact that we thought, best directed episode, I agree. And you knew that there was a big chance that Elle was going to die, but I thought it was going to be way down the line. Like, when I first started the series, I thought that Elle was going to die like in maybe episode 30 or maybe 35. I thought Elle would make it to the very, very end. And Silence just completely, like, it leaves you speechless as an audience. It was like, I fully expected Elle to make it to the very end of the series and was like, wait, what? He's dying now? And we still have like 12 episodes to go? What? And just the emotions in it, the anime only extras, like the rain, the bells, everything. It's so, so good. Oh, thank you, Yoshi. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But yeah, I always feel like Silence and New World, I can go back and rewatch clips from those episodes so, so much. And and it's just so sad that it happens, but it made the series so, it kept you on the edge of your toes, because when Elle dies, you're like, well, what's going to happen from here? Where do we go? What's going to happen now? And so it completely, the heartbreak. And then that line, if you ever lied in your entire life. There's just so many good one-liners in Silence and New World. It's just, they're perfect episodes. There's literally no part about either of them that I dislike. I just absolutely, and yes, Karin, the scene where Elle looks back at Light and his reflection is splintered. So, so good. And the music, the soundtrack of both episodes, the sound system is just, mm-hmm. The anime only scenes, Tetsuro Araki. Yep, shout out to him, because yeah, those episodes are just so damn good. I love them. So yeah, those are my episode rankings. Those are it. Wow, we have been on for 2.5 hours. I gave into this live stream thinking, I was like, oh, this will just be like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops live stream, and here's where we are. You and I will be parting ways soon. Sad with Elle, right? And then, just the opening, yeah, episode 25 is such a perfect episode. Be Happy. I love that episode. And then Omaru pointing out the moment where Light's face, where he looks down at Elle dying and then slowly smiles. I was so mad at that point at Light. I was like, F you, Light. It's just, oh my God, it's great. It's great. So as we're rounding this out, any other questions from you all about Death Note that we did not answer in this? Any other ones? I know that I'm very sad to be ending Death Note. It feels like I'm so glad I got to watch it, because I rank every manga chapter. We'll be here all day. And the foot scene left me with many questions as a child. Oh my God. I feel like I'm really glad I got to watch Death Note because I had always wanted to see Death Note when I was younger, and I just never had the time to commit to it. I knew it was like nearly 40 episodes. I'm like, oh, I'll never get to watch that. And then when I started my channel, I was like, I really want to see it because it feels like an anime everyone should watch. If you're going to watch anime, you need to see Death Note. I feel like it's realistic enough that any audience can access it, even if they've never watched anime before, but it has enough anime elements like introducing Ryuk and the humor and the dramatic elements that you can really appreciate it. So, what did Omaru ask? Can you fix light? I don't know. I know there's a lot of fan fiction out there that fix him. So good for those fanfic writers. I'm not gonna try to fix light. No way. Mm-mm. I feel like y'all do a good enough job with your fix with light, but I don't know if light needed to, well, did he need to be fixed? That's the great question, isn't it? Yeah, I do believe that this anime, my top 5 favorite scenes. Oh, definitely. I think my favorite scene is the confession by Light at the very end when Nier outs him, saying, "You're not a god, you're just a murderer." I think that's my favorite scene where Nier says, "You are not a god, you are just a murderer." That's my favorite scenes. That's my favorite scene is that one. You're not a god, you're a murderer. That's a good scene. I am L. I am L is definitely number 2, where he confesses who he is. That one is great. Um, According to Cake, where Light gets his memories back, and there's that creepy shot where everything goes silent and you just see Light screaming as all of the memories come back. Yeah, there's something outside my dogs were barking at Electric Tyrone, so there's no telling. So those scenes, so Light's confrontation with Nier at the very end, according to Cake, I am L, L's death scene. And then after that, the last scene that I think is the most iconic of all of them, probably the potato chip scene. Because it's just like, really, this is how far we're gonna go. All right. All right. I think you'd be happy. I'm really happy that back at you. Oh, thanks. I'm really happy that I got to see Death Note. It was something that I've wanted to see since I was a kid, and I'm glad that you all were very supportive. And we had such good conversations in the comments about that series. I always really enjoyed everybody like chiming in with their views of it. And I feel like it's one of those series you've watched that has had enough time settled that people could really develop their opinions about it and say, well, back when I was younger, I thought this, but now I think this. And I think that's kind of cool about looking at slightly retro series is when you look back on them, you can look back at them either nostalgically or in a whole new way. Do you think if your opinion of the series would have been different if you watched it when you came out? Yes. Oh God, no. Here's my thing. I'm in my 30s. I'm ancient by YouTube standards. By reactor standards, I am an ancient soul. And so if I had watched this when it came out when I was in high school, I probably would have been Misa. I would have been a Light fangirl. I would have been like, oh my God, look at Light. Just like I would have been like, oh, but I also would have been all about L. I would have been looking at it through like fangirl glasses rather than looking at it through the thematic elements or anything critically. I know how I would be. I know how I would be. I know how I was when I was like 16 or 17. No, I would not have had the appreciation of it that I have now. And so I'm very glad that I watched it when I was older character for what it was. But yeah, I feel like it's much better that I watched it now than then. Omaru. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping to have more Ace of the Diamond content coming up soon. I know that they're translating some extra stuff that came out with the newest volume, so I don't want any spoilers, but I'm going to be doing a reaction for Ace of the Diamond hopefully later this summer. But see you, Bernard Black. Thank you for coming by. Which OP did I like more? Oh, Annoy. I like OP2 more. The second OP. Everybody gave it so much grief. Like in the comment section, if you go on Crunchyroll for episode 20, I went back and looked at the comment section for Crunchyroll in episode 20. Everyone is so mean about the second OP. I love it. I'm like, no. OP2 is so manic and chaotic. It fits the tone of the first OP a lot. I have not listened to the character's theme from the soundtrack, Dan, so I would not know from that. Let me see here. Like too loud for my taste. That's a thing. the second OP is very acquired. Like if it is not your jam, it is not your jam. I just like it because it fits the tone of the series. But I feel like OP1 is maybe better in terms of sound design and overall musically, but OP2 has that theme that I think fits the show perfectly for the second act. I'd have to say that. Cool. Well, I said I would mention like Promise Neverland. Somebody brought it up way back then about orphanages and things like that. I would say that I do have like polls that we're going to do on Patreon and stuff as we go, but I would eventually like to do something like The Promise Neverland and watching it. I've already told everybody over on Patreon that if I ever did watch The Promise Neverland, I would watch the first season in full. I have heard rumors the second season does not follow the manga. I don't want to know anything more. I will just say that if I did watch The Promised Neverland, I would watch season 1 and then would have like a drinking game / binge of season 2 and make fun of it before diving into the manga. That would be what I would do. I would watch season 1 in earnest. Season 2 would be like a binge drinking game, and then I'd do the manga to finish up and be like, okay, what did I actually miss? Like that. If I ever get to Promised Neverland, that's what I was do. Somebody had asked about it. And reading the manga from the beginning. Yes, I wouldn't want to start the manga halfway through, right? It's not just funny bad, it's just bad. Ooh, we could make it funny bad, Tyrone. I think we can make it funny bad. I will accept that challenge. We can Tipsy Romania can find a way to make it funny. That would be a hot mess express. We get Wine Chan out. We could have a good time. We could get a good time. And it may be better to read the manga, like you said, Noi, before season 2. That would maybe be watch season 1, read the manga, and then for funsies, get a little tipsy and watch season 2 and see what all the hubbub's about. Because I've heard so many reactors like started season 2 and then were like, nope, can't finish it. I accept this challenge. I accept challenges. Oh, ooh, season 2 is like Death Note from Netflix. Oh, that may need to happen. Did you ever, okay, Dan, did you ever say if Elle was your favorite character overall, or is it Nier? Oh, Elle is my favorite character. Elle is definitely my favorite character. If I had a top 5 favorite characters in the series, it would go Elle. And then honestly, I think Light and Nier are tied for me. I love Light as a character. I don't believe in his ideals at all. And I'm actively rooting for him to be stopped. But I love him as a character. He's so engaging and fun to watch on screen. And Nier, I love because he works so well opposite of Light. Like Light and Elle are so polar opposites that it's so fun to watch them banter off of each other. But Elle's my favorite. It would go Elle, and then Light and Nier would be next. And then I really like Mello. I really like Mello a lot. And then I'd say that probably Aizawa and Soichiro. Tie them in there. Aizawa and Soichiro are really good. I like them too. But yeah, Light's so charismatic. It's hard to not like his character, even if you don't agree with him. You're just like, damn, you got so much charisma. He's such a fun main character. Misa's up there. I do like Misa a lot. Misa's up there. I feel sad about her ending, and that kind of taints the rest of my views of her. And I feel like she kind of gets the rough end of the stick sort of by the end of the series, because they kind of leave her out in the last part of the series. They kind of leave Misa in the hotel room, and they're like, okay, we don't want to get you involved. Misa's ending felt very much like the mangaka being like, what do I do with her? We'll just stick her in the hotel. And now that she doesn't have memories of the Death Note, it's fine. We'll just keep her in there for the end, right? Oh my God, Birth the Pine Nut. Light has charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. You are a godsend. That's amazing. Birth the Pine Nut. You win. You win for comments for this live stream. You win for comments. You win. Yep. He has uniqueness, charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. You, Burf, you win. You win the comment section. That was amazing. That made my day. I've been catching up with that series slowly but surely and relating everything I watch now to it. So that's amazing. It's too bad Light and Elle couldn't lip sync for their life. Oh my God. Yes. Oh, Noi. Yes, Light is my favorite character the same way a certain character from Attack on Titan is my favorite. Oh, no, I completely understand. I completely understand. But yeah, y'all, holy cow, this was so much fun. I have several live streams planned for this summer. The next one is actually really soon. I'm going to be away from my computer next weekend, so I could not do it on Sunday. So the next live stream is going to be on Tuesday. I will put it in the chat. The next live stream is going to be Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time about Mob Psycho 100 and other things. Yep. So category is Deadly Extravaganza. Category is Shinigami Couture. Rim and Ryuk would do great on that series. They would get 10s across the board. I would love it so much. Deadly Extravaganza. So yes, the next live stream is going to be actually this coming Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to talk about Mob Psycho and a couple other things. Probably only going to talk for like 2 hours on that one because I do have somewhere to be that afternoon. But I do want to spend a couple hours talking about Mob Psycho 100, that series, and any other things we want to talk about. So did no one ship Rim with Ryuk? You know, Omaru, I really think Rim and Ryuk would have been a great ship. I feel like Rim is like Ryuk is like the ultimate bachelor. He's just like, Rim is mesosexual, yes. And Ryuk is like the ultimate bachelor. He's just here for a good time. He's not here for a long time, but he's here for a good time. Mm-hmm. So I thank you guys so much for joining me with this live stream. This was so much fun. I am so glad to talk about the LABB murders and to talk about the novel, to talk about the series with you all. It feels like the end of a chapter, but I'm very happy to have the manga so I can go back and reread it whenever I want to. And I've already read the novel before, so it's been great. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all being here. If you are on Patreon, I'm going to post a link to this on Patreon. And then otherwise, I'm going to be back here on Tuesday to talk about Mob Psycho and whatever else we want to talk about. So, but thank you guys so much. I've got to go take Huckleberry and Ruby out now because they probably are like, thank you for talking about Death Note. But thank you all so much. Much love to y'all. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. So, and if it's Monday for y'all, have a good rest of your week. So take care, and I'll see you guys all again soon with more reactions. Bye.